Hello to everyone everywhere. Welcome to Spurs Diehards Tottenham Till I Die, the show that is as level-headed as possible. We've been through some ups and downs this season. We've gone from Vicari no to Vicario. We've gone from Bissouma to Bissouma, and we've gone from Bentang to Bentang. Adrian, we are in the final. How you feeling, my friend?
Yeah, I'm fine. I suppose I'm probably feeling a lot better than some Spurs fans that got up this morning to go to work with a bare head on, I should imagine. And fair play to them. And some probably would have had the day off. And now after the nervous tension of getting through a semi-final, you've now got 13 days of nervous tension to the final. It doesn't stop. But this is where we want to be. That's the whole point of Jeopardy.
Absolutely. We welcome back show regular Alan Rakdos Madness. How are you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm buzzing. I'm so excited about the final. It really does cap off a very difficult season, and I feel like it salvages something to me because it shows that the guys are still involved, even though in the league we are way down in the table. It wasn't so horrible that they couldn't show up when it mattered. And so just going nuts yesterday. I didn't do all the heavy drinking like some people I know did, but buzzing.
Awesome. I notice we're in the same location as we were last week, so the whiteboard is no doubt going to give us the tactical breakdown analysis of the match later on. And obviously we are joined, everybody's should see, show somewhat regular, but co-founder of the channel, Mr. Ian. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm really pissed off, to be honest with you. I mean,
I know.
Every Sunday night, I host a show where I peddle misery from 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock at night and just drive everybody mad. And now I have to come on here pretending to be happy that we're in a European final. It's just awful. Over the moon. And I mean, I did a preview for Scarfy yesterday, middle of the afternoon, and my comment was, how can a season that's delivered so little suddenly promise so much? The great ironies of football. I mean, we'll talk about the game. I know you'll want to talk about the game. I thought we were magnificent. I thought Ange tactically the last few games has been magnificent. He's got it absolutely right. This was meant to be a difficult game and it was easy. And we're going to a final. And by God, we might even win a final and have a trophy. And then we got the Ange debate all over again. But I can have a debate about when we've won things. It's having debates when we've got beat. Yeah, I'm a very, very, very happy man.
Good. It's awesome. Well, yeah, I was just thinking about it before the show. I mean, I think I was bald and you two were grey the last time we were in a European final. Yeah, now I'm grey and you two are bald. So it just goes to show how long it's been. We'll start with a breakdown of the match. Obviously, the team that went out there, not dissimilar. I think isn't actually the same as the team that played the first leg. So we obviously had Vicario, Udogi, Van der Ven, Romero, Porro, which has been an absolutely stellar back five. They're just sort of growing more and more into stature and prominence. Bissouma, Bentancur, Kulusevski, with a three in the middle with Richarlison, Solanke and Johnson on the left wing, centre forward and right wing. So obviously match was against Bodo, in Bodo, and everybody waxing lyrical at the beginning of this that, they're going to have their danger men back and we really, really need to be aware because, they've been so dangerous at home. So don't know about you guys. I was actually slightly concerned going into this, but only slightly. On the bench, we had the substitutes Austin and Whiteman, obviously with the goalkeeping scenario. Spence, Moore, Ajayi, Olasesi, Sarr, Odegaard, Telgray, Danzo, and Davies. I'll just do a little first half rundown and then we'll just have a little bit of a discussion about it. But that's not before I just welcome a couple of regulars in. Nita, good evening. Lovely to see you. Good evening, pal in chat. She says, still smiling. I am drawing every moment of our win last night. Hope you are smiling too. We absolutely are. And Paul Brown is also in the chat with us early doors. Good evening all. Quite amazing. what a win can do, but just remember the main issues still exist. Well, yeah, and we will touch on that earlier, but or a little bit later on, but we are certainly going to ride this wave for a moment. So first half, quick run through, 8 minutes, Blomberg blast wide in the side netting. And that came from a cross that, got past all of our defenders. And that's one thing that I'm going to touch on, or I'd like us to touch on later on when we get to half time. 13 minutes, we had the Spurs corner with Porro, who was doing really, really well at the set pieces. Van der Ven flicks it wide. 16 minutes, Hiking palmed the ball away from an Udogie cross. 19 minutes, VDV outpacing Blomberg. There was a really nice ball through from the midfield for them, and VDV just turned on the burners and really made much ado about nothing, and then had the wherewithal to get to the byline and pass it out with a really, really nice pass. 23 minutes, Porro free kick, Hiking tips over. 31 minutes, the Berg free kick, Vicario with a full strength save. 33 minutes with the Johnson late challenge with the yellow card, which is a little silly from him. Thankfully, it's the final now, so he can't accumulate. Haig, header wide. 41 minutes, Berg shoots from long range and Vicario scoops the ball. And that was about the first half, but it was a really, really bright start. And I'll open it up to you, Ian. Firstly, I'll just get your thoughts because we were chatting backstage. I mean, just a really, really, after what was, I think, a bit of a hyperbolic build-up, a really, really solid performance first half, bright start. Take it away.
Yeah, I think one question I'd like to put into the chat, because I think the panelists all want to maybe talk about this, and those of you watching, Rick from Brisbane. I would have said you're more likely to be from Swansea with that name, but yeah, good morning. Did they overwater the pitch? Now, I know it was wet, but you saw them putting on like fire hoses onto it before the match. And I just wondered if they got it wrong, because to me, the pitch was slow and it was sticky. And I thought that was a huge advantage to us. I mean, you said that the first banner, we started brightly. We did. We were on the attack. We had control of the football. Whether they were overhyped, because I said, because you know what football fans, how fickle they are. 1 minute they're world beaters on their own pitch, then suddenly we win. They weren't that good anyway, I thought we made them look ordinary. And I think we made them look ordinary because Ange got his tactics really right. And he did it in the home game. He did it at West Ham. And it does raise the Ange debate that maybe he's learning. It's taken him 2 years, but maybe he's learning. I at no point, you're always nervous a game like that. How can you not be nervous? But at no point did I feel uncomfortable. At no point did I think they are going to get 3 goals.
Correct.
At no point did I think they were going to get 3 goals. The fact that they didn't score any, and the only goal they got against us in 180 minutes was a fluke deflection off Bentancur. This is a side that's meant to be really good with the ball, really good attacking, and what have you. And 180 plus, stoppage time, 195 minutes, call it. They barely laid a glove on us all the time, and I think that says a lot about our players. I think our players went out there with an attitude: we're better than you, and we're going to go and prove it. There's a little bit the way they were. I wondered if they actually realised this. They'd gone as far as they were going to go. That they probably had an idea, despite the hype, we were better than them. But alarm set for 5 a.m. Where are you off to? Lisa, you're in the UK, aren't you, Lisa? Maybe not. Hi, Lisa. Anyway.
Hey, Lisa. Thanks for joining.
The level of professionalism, and we don't always see that from Tottenham over the years, I thought was first class. We talk about men of the match, but there was so many outstanding performances out there. Romero, God, you could hate him. But, you know, in a game like that really mattered, he suddenly decided, I am a world-class centre-half and I'm going to prove it. Udogie, excellent. The back four, Bentancur. I've said this on streams, Bentancur plays well, Tottenham plays well. Biss has done a superb job with that tactical job that Ange has got him to do. Yeah, Solanke leading the line brilliantly. I couldn't be happier the way we played. Couldn't be happier.
Alan, I'll come over to you because Ian touched on it there. Normally, there have been instances in the past, a couple of prime examples, where we have let this sort of thing slip through our fingers. This sort of game where, we've even had it in our hands and we kind of shot ourselves in the foot. And I would like to point out that in those instances, we've had a couple of what would be considered our prime players and, arguably a couple of legends at the club. So did it surprise you yesterday at how commanding we were in that first half and how we started the game?
Yeah, actually, I was very surprised. We played in a different way than we normally do. And I think in a way that Bodo, and I hope I'm saying that right, Bodo?
I believe, Bodo. Yeah.
Sure.
We do our best. We're multicultured. Yeah.
So they couldn't figure us out in that first half. They had no clue what to do about us. And I think they were stymied. You could see the frustration. They had that one good shot, which Vicario stopped. I thought the referee was horrible on the day. The yellow card on Johnson was super. I didn't even on the replay. It didn't look like anything happened. Really? All. Yeah, not from any point.
I can't agree with that.
No,
I thought it was super light. But and I was very happy. Again, anytime Ange is adapting more, I'm happy because it's what's required. You can't expect one way to be the way that solves everything in anything. So I'm glad that Ange is kind of starting to recognize that. He has reason to be that way because his job is on the line. If he were to go out yesterday, if they were to come back and score 4 goals on us or whatever, then I think that would have been the end. But it didn't. And we were very, I was more nervous, but then after the first half, I remember thinking to myself, you know what? I think we've got this. I was watching you guys on Irish Hotspur. You guys are already kind of like 1 foot in, already. And it's true. We had 1 foot in at that point. And then, so I was just very happy with everyone's play. I thought Richarlison did a very good job. I was very pleasantly surprised that Bissouma did such a great job breaking up their forward play and stymieing them. He did
it in the first leg as well, Alan.
Yeah,
he was really good in the first game.
But he does this, so I was sort of anticipating him on the downward going down instead of again continuing his ascendancy. So super surprised, but super pleasantly happy about it. And it gave me a lot of hope for the finals.
Yeah. Adrian, let's come over to you. Thoughts on sort of, just the first, obviously, first half in general, but I'd like to sort of carry on that. Just thought about Bissouma, because I think as well, obviously, we're going to touch on potential man of the matches, but I think again, I know, some might argue that, we come to the end of the season. It's about time he started putting in some performances. He's putting himself in the shop window because he realizes that nobody wants him here. But if he carries on like that and gives those sorts of performances till the end of the season, is there an argument that, you're not going to buy much better for the money that you're going to get him for? But yeah, what's your thoughts on his performance in the first half?
Yeah, I mean, I think like most Spurs fans, we're hoping to get through the first 15, 20 minutes without conceding and not giving away these like 3-minute, 5-minute goals. You know what I mean? And but we started bright. I thought this looks good because when we start bright, we usually do well, and so it was good. And we had a few chances during the half, and the players, they were definitely up for it, and we sort of sat back and really mid-low block on them, really. And like Alan said, they couldn't hurt us. They couldn't hurt us at all. I mean, we had chance. I mean, when you doggy squared that ball, it's the keeper palm. Johnson was running in on that. That would have been another tap in for Johnson. And Bodo free kick when it went over, he had to tip that over as well. So, before we even get a goal, I mean, it was good and solid. It wasn't. I mean, we do these minute by minute things or incident things in the book just to give you a general tone of the game, because sometimes the game doesn't match what you actually see with the eye test. So and to give people an idea of how the game went, especially if you didn't see the game as well. So it wasn't like. Go on, Ian, if you want to come in.
No, what I was going to say to you, because it's adding to what you're saying, and it was the same in the first game. He didn't play that, I'll call it the suicidal high line. Certainly the dangerously high line, and we've seen teams. You see Barcelona getting caught out with it against Inter time and again. So it's a good tactic, but it has huge risks. But the thing I've been most annoyed with Anjat, because it's a problem he hasn't fixed, is the fact that you can when we there's a disconnect between the back four or whatever's left of it, with the fullbacks roaming forward and the midfield players, and you find two passes, and suddenly you can draw this huge square from sort of around the centre circle, 10 yards either side of it, where there isn't a Spurs player. And there's opposition players running into spaces, and we're totally caught with the tactical, the tactics he ran in the first game as well. And he did it at West Ham, and he did it on Thursday. There was a fairly close lines between the back four, which wasn't as high. It was maybe 5-6 yards deeper than it would be, but also that midfield, particularly the midfield two of Bissouma and Bentancur, were giving support, and there wasn't that space that there usually is between the lines when you play Tottenham. That space at no point existed for them to exploit, and I'm just really, and it does come back to the Ange thing, guys, and Adrian in particular, because it's your bit. Is if he said, okay, I can maybe fix this. I'm good enough to fix this. He did fix it, and as I say, I'll start repeating myself. And this was your bit slot anyway, Adrian. But they did lay.
Well, that's what was to.
They did not lay a glove on us.
Well,
to come back to Adrian, do you think, to Ian's point, you think he's, because I heard this sort of referenced on a pod earlier, you think he's, along with this coinciding with the players sort of really coming back to something resembling what they should have been at the beginning of the season, you think this is him learning and realising that what he's done before just isn't going to quite cut it in the Premier League, or is this two different competitions and you can't read too much into it?
They are two different competitions, aren't they? And playing away in Europe is tough wherever you go. I mean, you expect even the better teams than Spurs to go away. You think, oh, they'll go out there, they'll win 5-0, 4-0. It never happens. So, although Man United did go to Bilbao and win 3-0, so perhaps I'm contradicting myself there. But yeah, I mean, it is two different competitions, and you've got to have a squad to compete. It's not with Ange. I mean, and has he really? With all the injuries, we've struggled in the league, let alone try to compete. Even in a couple of the earlier rounds, we played what we would consider, out of them 8 games, we played what I'd consider to be weaker teams, because we got Lico and he was becoming under increasing pressure in the league. So, and then we got past the tipping point, in my opinion, before we even got our players back. And then you got to get players back. And it's not like back in the day when you got 5 or 6 games to get back into your stride, because in the modern game, it's even a lot faster. So now you've got this between your ears, sharp as hell, and you only get that by playing games. So, and I've seen times when I thought, we're under-hitting, over-hitting passes or making the wrong choice. And that it all compounded our season, basically. You know, and I think we're going to end up on a happy note, though. We're going to win this competition. So, yeah. As your remarks about Basuma, how many times we do this when a player's not played well throughout a season, suddenly there's 2 or 3 games and all the love comes back for them. Right?
Well, this is very true. This is why I asked.
Yeah, it's not with Basuma for me, right? He's got to do more. But there aren't that many games left. There's 3 league games left. There's only 2 league games left, which I'm sure you'll come on to later, to the final. You know, we play Villa away on the Friday, and then we've got the Palace game. Ange may want to play. He may want to play his team that he's going to play in the final way at Villa, just to make sure they aren't leg rusty. I don't know. He might not, right? So Palace will come on and play something different. So Basuma really's got to play these games. Same as Richie as well. He's in a similar position. You know, he needs to play those games as well. And we don't know. I mean, you can bet your life that Son starts in the final, but that's another conversation. So back to you, Jerry. Yeah.
Just a shout to Ryan G in the chat. Big up my friend, Mr. Ryan. Big up, Mr. Fokoff, Peter Kagaias, Mr. Edwardson, Zookeeper Tom. Just some entrance into the chat there. Just wanted to say hello to everybody. And just to answer your question, Alan, the Williams brothers weren't there for the game last night. I think they were both injured, one in training and one in the last game. But yeah, they were down to 10 men in the first game when they were both on the field. But yeah, I think it's a big surprise that United seemed to get past them relatively easy. But yeah, they were down to 10 men pretty early in that first leg. So that's something to be said for that. All right, well, we'll move on to. Sorry, go on in.
Yeah, I was just just one thing. I think the whole Basuma enigma is interesting. And I go back to the first game, because when I looked at that team the first game, and no one would have thought he's going to play Basuma when it came clear that afternoon or early evening that Bergvall wasn't going to play. And you think, what's his thinking here? Because he's clearly gone with Basuma as what he perceives as a like-for-like replacement for Bergvall, because they would have trained with Bergvall in mind, the tactics for that game. And I just thought the way it released the fullbacks. And I think Udogie and Porro have both been really excellent in both of the games against Bodo. And I think that's in no small part to the support they've had and the protection they've had from the axis of Bentancur and Basuma. I don't want to underestimate that.
Yeah, do you think... Well, let's keep on that then. Do you think that, because I noticed that yesterday and again this morning when I rewatched the game, there's been a very, very definitive sort of box in the last game and this game that has been that Romero, Van der Ven, Bissouma, Bentancur. And I think previously Bergvall has been given a little bit more of a license to roam. Well, I mean, I suppose if we're going to just use the old analogies of numbers, I know people have their love-hate relationships with that, but let's just say, for example, I think if you play Bentancur, Bergvall, and somebody up front, say Maddison, that is probably your typical archetype 6, 8, 10. Whereas now I think he's playing a definitive double pivot with more of a 2 6s, because you notice that box of those 2 centre backs and those 2 midfielders holding that line and giving, like you say, Porro and Udogie more of a license because there's more solidity. And you've only got Bentancur having to cover one half of a pitch and Bissouma having to cover another half of a pitch, as opposed to when you play the 6, the roaming 8 and the 10, you're expecting that 6 to do more of a left-right. And I just think that both of them have a tendency to get a little bit overwhelmed when you ask them to do that. And I think that double pivot just offers a lot more of a solid base for everybody else to work off.
Someone else can come in. I've said my bit. I think that's 100% right. Alan or Adrian, I think you should pick this. One of you should pick this up.
I mean, I agree. especially yesterday, we were playing a lot down that left-hand side. I thought that Richarlison paired very well with Destiny yesterday. Richarlison was doing a really good job of tracking back, which allowed Destiny to do his, run his overlap and go. And he almost, he had a bad kick, but he was in positions where he either could have shot or he could have, he put it in the right spot for Johnson to put it in. He was doing really good yesterday, Destiny.
Yeah, his work rate was phenomenal, huh?
He's been getting better and better and better. He obviously hit his bottom, and now he's on the ascendancy again. He's doing really well.
Yeah. Adrian, any last thoughts on that before we move on to the second half?
No, my only concerns would be I'd like to have seen a bit more fluidity with the three, but we were sitting back and controlling the game, so that's not really relevant for this conversation because the team did what it had to do. So yeah. And they had a couple of dangerous crosses, but look, they're the home team. Every team's going to give you a few problems during the game, aren't they? If not a lot. So yeah,
I've got to put that up. Love it, Lisa.
I booked Thursday the 22nd off work months ago. My son is a Man United fan. Shame on him. Should be an interesting final here. LOL, my poor neighbours. Big up Lisa Davis. Well, at least one of you is a Spurs fan, so you'll be on the right side of things one way or another. We'll move on to, we'll just do a little quick play-by-play of the second half, and then we'll do a little brainstorm and just see what we thought, unless anyone wants to come in particularly on a point. Because 51 minutes... and we started, I'm going to say we started slowly. Again, I think it was a managed performance. I don't think we were ever expected to sort of come out the gates. We didn't need to. And that's why I think, that's sort of taken a couple of people by surprise that, we are able to essentially just sort of shut up shop and keep it tight when we need to, albeit I appreciate this is Bodo and we will face sterner tests. But we had the Hay teasing cross, VDV headed clear, Richarlison, Solanke, shot blocks, which led to the corner. But those two were linking up well, and they were causing. I noticed as well, especially on the corners. You're tying up both of the central defenders by having two essentially centre forwards on there. I know obviously he's playing left wing, but when you've got two centre backs against one forward, it's a lot easier. But when you've got that menace that is the pigeon in there just causing trouble, I think it just gives the defence in general more to think about. So then we had our first change, 68 minutes. Sarr for Johnson. I think Johnson picked up a little bit of a knock, and probably just as a precaution, they brought Sarr on. And then, excuse me, we had Tell. What's that, mate?
No.
No. This happened just beforehand. We had the Tell for Richardson, and then on 63 minutes, Tell corner. Romero towering header. He headed it down, and then Solanke gets on the end of that. We then had some of the dark arts, which I know Anne just said he doesn't appreciate, but I'm all for it. I said on the show that I was doing yesterday, just waste every second you can going out for balls, going throw-ins, corners, everything. This isn't a race. This is a marathon. So let's just get it over with as soon as possible. We then had 2-0 up after 69 minutes. Bissouma again with an interception. Udogi Kulusevski, Porro cross, just finds the top left corner. And I guess we'll stick here for a second because
it was a shot.
All right. Well, you've answered my question. Anyone else?
He said he was interviewed. He said he was passing.
Yeah. But that's how sometimes luck evens itself out. We all think Bodo were really lucky to come away with a goal at Tottenham. We lost Maddison, we lost Solanke, we lost our fluidity. I think we might have won by 4, 5, possibly even 6 if all those players had stayed, both those players had stayed on. And then they get a goal which is an absolute fluke, and you go, that's typical Tottenham luck, because they'll get 2 at their place and then we'll be struggling. But So, but in the end, it didn't happen. The game was completely different, and Porro got the luck that they got with their goal at our place. So it absolutely evened itself out.
Yeah, fair play. And then I think that essentially killed the tie. I mean, I think it was much of a muchness. We got to 88 minutes really after that. Sorrell shoots from 20 yards, Vicario saves. We had the penalty, which was overturned. And I think the trajectory of the ball, if you were actually sort of paying attention, the trajectory of the ball showed that Porro had absolutely got there first. And then that kind of wrapped things up, and we found ourselves finalists of the Europa League. So overall, a very, very well-controlled second half, a gentlemanlike performance. Nobody really did anything wrong. The game management by Ange was as it should be. I mean, there's not really much you can do in terms of Kulusevski. He really needed to get as many minutes as he could. And there wasn't really anybody in there to sort of replace him. And if it's not broke, don't fix it. I don't think it was one of those games where it needed to be 100 mile an hour all the way through. So he could sort of ease his way through it, and it will do him wonders. Richarlison got more minutes than he's had before. So all in all, I mean, Adrian, it was the performance that some people have been crying out for a lot of the season. Just measured, controlled, don't do anything too fancy, get the job done.
We've seen we can do it. We see it at Brentford when we won 2-0 away. We see it at Frankfurt away, getting the 1-0 win. We've seen it here 2-0 away. This isn't a fluke. This team can play that way, right? And you look back now and think, well, why didn't we in some other games, But it's just the way things have turned out for Ange. He's gone with his philosophy. I admire him. He's got his philosophy. We see, and we all, none of us here. And the thing with Ange, you keep you guessing. Man United won't have a clue how we're going to play against them because we don't know how we're going to play against them.
No, that's good.
We don't know if we're going to go mid-low block or go gung-ho or a mixture of all three. I mean, and Man United, they'll be on their minds. We've beaten them 3 times this season,
Well, to this point, I think Fakov says, I think it's obvious that we can only play the way Ange wants when we have the players available. The way he insists on playing the same way with the wrong play or personnel is infuriating. Well,
but in fairness, he has also played the same way, stroke the wrong way when he has had the players available. And as I've said, I think this double pivot, well, I think he was going to do it with Bergvall, putting in Bissouma in there and having the two of them holding and not going forward anywhere near as much, but releasing the fullbacks and giving the 10, whether it's Kulusevski, obviously it won't be Madison. Evening Audio is I think giving us much more freedom. And what was interesting, Adrian went through Adrian went through those games, the away games where we've got the results. There was one thing in common: 0. Opposition got 0. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't score a goal against us, you lose the match. And I just think Ange can manage that. We'll score against Man United. If we keep them out, we win. It's fairly blinding flash of the obvious.
And as you have rightly pointed out before, Ian, Bentancur played well in all those three games as well.
Yeah, well,
so he's getting back to what he was.
Yeah, well, you know my saying: when Bentancur plays well, Spurs play well. It's a cliche of mine, but I'll keep saying it. I'm just looking at Inner Hypes tomorrow night. If I need to deal with 3-4-1. Yeah, I found.
Yeah, it's like coming. Well, we'll get on. No, we're not now. It's for later. What I'm thinking is a bit later. It's not for now. Yeah.
This. I think we'll touch on this again. I'll star it. We'll touch on this. I think he's referring. Is it tomorrow or is it Sunday? He's referring to the Palace game. I'm sure. It's Big Sunday. Up in our hype.
Sunday, past 2, I think.
I've starred that, and we'll actually touch back on this later on because it's an interesting point. Big up Audio. Nice to see you, mate. Yeah, and Eltel in here. Sorry, I missed you earlier. Big up, mate.
I hope you're feeling better. He's got a bit
Aussie Ange, big up to you. Thanks for joining. CDFC Benny, thanks for coming in. Really appreciate it. Much appreciate the support. Alan, your thoughts, second half, and just sort of game management and how we wrap things up.
Yeah, I thought Ange did a great job, a really great job. You know, Adrian kind of pointed out we started off a little bit slowly in the second half, but I think there was obviously a strategy in mind. It was suffocating their forward momentum, and their coach, even in afterwards, was talking about it. That they really couldn't get the engine started. They just never had that opportunity. We kept blocking them and stopping them. They had a lot of the ball, but not a lot of shots. They had a lot of passes. Again, you know, they had a lot of control of the game, but it amounted to nothing.
Yeah, lots of huffing and puffing, right?
A lot of huffing and puffing, and again, that's got to be down to Ange wanting the players to play a certain way and the players executing on that vision. So, you know, kudos to both of them. The players could have resisted it, but they went with it, and you could see they're starting to get it. They're starting. You can see the wheels are turning for this team. You know, playing together. It's not just a bunch of individuals. These guys are starting to play as a cohesive unit.
Yeah. Well, I think it's sort of been mentioned. I mean, I don't want to take full credit for it because I've got a feeling I heard it somewhere and subconsciously I ended up re-saying it or splitting it out. But I think, isn't it like 8 or 9 of these players? So the team that was 8 wins, 2 draws at the beginning of last season. Like there's a familiarity amongst these guys that I think was lost because our season has obviously been butchered and pulled apart with so many injuries and issues. And I think they're sort of starting to sort of come back together. They've had the right amount of rest. They appear to have sort of been managed correctly in terms of the minutes. I mean, I keep on hearing there's this rhetoric that Ange is at fault for all these injuries, and yet, we've been so unlucky with non-impact injuries, and especially, I heard somebody having to go about injuries in training, and they were having to go, he's pushed Bergvall too far because he wants to recreate game type scenarios and stuff like that. And the report was that Bergvall just injured himself, twisted his knee, and it was completely innocuous. He didn't even have the ball at the time. So I'm not entirely, it's just, I think people say that they've got it in their mind that things are a certain way and they don't want to be swayed for, or they're afraid to say something else for fear of, I don't know, being wrong. I mean, I've got no problem holding my hands up and say I fluff things sometimes, but anyway, that's for another time. Faz Radfire in the chat, big up Faz. Good to see you. Big up panel. Ange deserves huge credit for the road performance. He certainly does, and we are going to be touching on that later on in the show. We've also got David Clark in here. Big up, David. Our only danger against Manchester United set pieces with Maguire, who is a huge threat. Yep. His forehead's a huge threat. It's also huge. Another reason for playing both Richarlison and Solanke, not only to threat attack, but a defense. And I think you're absolutely right. We'll run through the stats quickly. It was 69% possession to 31, and that's 69 to Bodo, 31 to us. Just goes to show that we can sit back, soak it up, and put in, as I say, performances like this. And, I kept on getting told that Bodo were no mugs. They were at home, and it was going to be really, really hard. So let's not take anything away from it. They may have had, as we've touched on, the lion's share, but it was a very lazy lion that huffed and puffed and didn't get very far. Shots on target, we had 2 to 3. Block shots 2 and 2. Tackles 20 to 19. Clearances 27 to 21. So pretty even Stevens across the board there. They had 4 interceptions to our 11, and I think that's testament to what Bissouma and Bentancur especially were doing in the middle. Aerial duels 45 to 55. They had 603 passes to 256, and again 603. I would argue half of those left to right. They were doing the horseshoe or the horse shit, as we like to call it, don't we, gents?
Yeah, we do.
The accuracy of 86% to 73%, and then crosses 12 to 21, fouls 8 to 10. So I mean, people read what they want to into stats. But at the end of the day, I think we were still, even with that 31% possession, you could argue the more dangerous of the two. Even from, the cross that Richarlison cannoned off of their defender in the first couple of minutes all the way through to the end, we looked like we had a couple more gears we could go through. Anyone want to touch on final touches on game management the second half?
I thought the subs were good, especially. I mean, I've said it a couple of weeks ago. I said, I might have said it to you guys. I said, Tell can take a corner, right? And it's nice to have that option because I remember when even Ericsson couldn't get past the man on the post, past the first man. And it was his corner the goal came from.
Yep.
So, and I'm looking at him and I like your opinion on this kid. I mean, obviously we ain't paying those 60 million for him, but he's effective. And he's got the three things I look for in a player. He's got vision, pace, and he moves the ball quickly. And that's what I like to see. And he can make things happen, like with the corner and all that. So that's what I usually look for on the videos when they're always looking good. Players with pace and move the ball quickly. And he's got that. It's a question like the fan base will be split on him because I am still, to be honest with you. I mean, and there are too few games, really, unless he starts scoring a couple of hat-tricks to convince us to go, all in and get the kid, right? Or even pay, I think it's 45 mil, actually, that they want Bayern, which, it might only be about 5 mil over top or something like that for a player because he's got quality. He's definitely got quality there. And what's your take on these, Ian? What's your take on him?
But I haven't made up my mind because I haven't seen him do enough. And at 60 million, I mean, we spent 60 million on Solanke. He was overpriced, but he's doing a fabulous job. We spent 60 million on Richarlison, who, if we could get 40 million of that back, let's be honest, we'd jump at it. So paying another 60 million on a player that's really untested would not be my idea of the best way of spending money, particularly if Levy is saying the books are going to have to balance in the summer, albeit he probably hadn't factored in the possibility of Champions League money. So that might be a help. I would like to see him at the club. Whether they do another loan.
Yeah.
I don't know that Bayern would be up for that, and I don't know as well if any of this fee is something that we're doing this. I suspect with Gray at Leeds and Manor Solomon, and I think we're going to do the same with Tell and Harry Kane. Is instead of them paying the next instalment of the money, they'll offset some of that and give us the player, because apparently although people say, hang on, how can we not have any money and what have you? Apparently, we've got outstanding loan repayments, as in the stage payments for transfers of something in the region of £240 million.
It's more. I've got to put a banner up on that actually. Scroll down and see if I can find it. Right, this is our man. Call a football financial expert and university lecturer Kieran Spurs owe 337 million on transfers.
337 is as much as that. So
and a large chunk of that apparently has got to be paid in the summer. Now, because it's over 5 years and all the players we brought in to increase that debt won't have been brought on the same day, I wouldn't have thought. But it might be 2 or 3. So if you said 20% of that, I don't know what year we're in with these payments. This is the thing. Are you in year 1 when you got 5 years to pay? Or you're in year 2, year 3, or what?
But you can't refinance it. That's the point. This is different to.
It has to be paid over 5 years.
To regular debt. I've got 337 million of debt. I can say, well, I can't pay that this year, but I'll finance that over 10 years, and I'll pay 33.7 million or whatever it is a year plus interest, and I've solved the problem.
Chelsea tried to cheat that when they were giving 8-year contracts and amortising over 8 years, and the Premier League stopped it.
If you're saying to me, because at the end of the day, Son is not going to get any better. Whether they cash in on him or what, I don't know. But I think Tell has something, and if we could get him for 45. I reckon if we could get him, I would be thinking less than that, 30, 35 plus, but significant add-ons. I think that would make good business. Because
I think if you do something, if you do something in the region of another loan with an obligation for 35, that's probably going to end up being about 45, because you're probably going to have to pay 10 million for the season that you have him for another loan for, or something like that. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think the thing with the loan with the option is that every loan is essentially the option, right? The one thing that you do get the benefit of is being able to kind of work out or guarantee the price up front with the selling or the buying club. So, other than that, I think if you can give somebody the obligation, we'll guarantee that we'll give you 35 mil, and then you can amortize that then over the next 3.5 seasons after that. I mean, there's a lot of people in football finance that know what they're doing in terms of just kicking the can down the street and pushing the paper. So I'm not, I know there's a lot of money to still have outstanding, especially given the fact that we're not exactly the best club when it comes to selling. So I can't imagine there's much out there in terms of what people have got to give us, which is why I guess we've got to be kind of clever with Harry Kane and outstanding money and what we could maybe get in return. But Inner Hype makes, he does make a good point. He's since he's sort of gotten on it, he's been very, very, what's the word? He's just been very, very clever, I think, with his minutes and what he does with the ball on the pitch. His balls into the box are very, very dangerous.
And he's young. Remember,
and given, I was literally just going to say, given his age, you could get him for a steal now. And at 24, 25, like Inner Hype is actually alluding to, he could be, at the very, very least, you're going to double your money, I would think.
Yeah, well, he's not Lamine Yamal. That's not a big deal. You know what I mean? But most people aren't Lamine Yamal.
Yeah.
And so not everyone is mature enough at that age, to be able to do what that kid is doing. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be picking him up. He's very energetic. He's been getting better in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, we did say, when Bergvall first arrived, it was sort of said he's going to take sort of 6 to 8 months to hit the ground running, and we have the luxury of him being our player. With Tell, we sort of don't, but it's still, proof is in the pudding. It's going to take you a little while to hit the ground running, especially with no football, right? When he came from Bayern.
And we just picked him up in January. Is he 19, 18?
Exactly.
He's still very young. Bayern probably want him back for the Club World Cup.
There's been whispers about that. Yeah.
So yeah. Well, they're going to be out. They're letting go of Mueller, and Kimmich might go. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, Kingsley Coman. I mean,
Coman, I think, is looking for more time. But so I think he is not the risk that some of these other players. Look, Bergvall was a bit of a risk coming from that league. We are familiar with the Bundesliga, but where Bergvall came from, he came from
Swedish second division.
Which just so happened to feature, they lost to Chelsea, but they made it pretty far in the Europa Conference League. But still, we knew, like you said, it was going to take time for him to acclimate.
Yeah, we don't know what the transfer policy is going to be in the transfer window, because looks like Paratici will come in a new role as technical director. We might still keep Johan Lang. Scott one may go or may stay, even when we don't know this. And if it's confirmed with Paratici, then I think Paratici liked Tell before. He might have been he might have had a say in that.
We got the French.
We don't know, and the thing is, we need to know, because are we going all out to getting a name number 9 striker? How much money we got to spend? We don't know. Right. And then with the Basuma issue, even if he plays well towards the end of the season, I would still get rid of him, because we need to bring in that number 6, that Johnny Cardoso. And if you keep Basuma as well, we've got too many midfielders, unless you sell Sarr. because you're not Bentancur's obviously going to stay, and Madison and Kulusevski are there, and then again, like, you know, you only need 6 if you're playing 3 and 2 for each position. It's 6. You know, you always get a choice of 2 extra players, because if you've got a 25-man squad, 22 gives you 2 11s. The 23rd player gives you the 3rd goalkeeper, and you can really pick 2 others. Which I'd be picking a midfielder anyway, because that's that's the engine of most teams. I'd probably pick 2 midfielders, you know. But this is the thing with Basuma. If we're going to bring a midfielder in, then to me he still goes. No, I don't care where he plays, because we've got to find room. We've got too many.
Yeah. Sorry, just to answer Peter's question. Do we know? I thought it was ligaments, wasn't it? Was it ankle ligaments?
But
No, it was ligaments, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was in a boot, wasn't he? But yeah, that's just our theory. I'm nowhere a doctor, and I do not prescribe to be. So this is not advice. Just because, you know, disclaimers and stuff. You know what YouTube's like. So all right, well, we'll wrap up the second half in the game, because we were supposed to do this 11 minutes ago. And Adrian, would you like to give the channel a little bit of a plug?
Yes, we've got 82 viewers in here now. I assume quite a few are on XCOM. Our shows go out on a Tuesday at 9 o'clock, a Sunday at 9 o'clock. Ian hosts the Sunday shows at 9 o'clock. And this show goes out an hour later, because we like to cater for America, Canada, and those in different time zones in the Southern Hemisphere. So we go out an hour later in the UK for that. We have other groups. We have a Facebook group for those that are interested or use that form of social media. That's got 14,500 members. About 3,500 are active each month in there when you look at the computer-generated insights. But they don't come on here for some reason. People are very particular about what forms of social media they use. I don't blame them if it's toxic. We've also got a growing Facebook page, which these videos will go out on as well, live. So there's only about 300 in there at the moment, but these videos go out on XCOM, as those viewers are viewing from there know full well. You can find us on YouTube under the banner, which is... No, did I not put it in the comments? Yeah, the comments at the beginning, wouldn't I? Yes. Gotcha. You can find us here. Any of you viewing us on playback, you know, you can find us here. If you like the content, please, you know, give the videos a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel, because it really helps the algorithm. You know, we'll be a year old in June, or the end of June, I forget which now. Like, we're doing okay, but like, with your help, you know, we'll grow quicker, and we'll continue to bring you out quality content. So with that, back to you, Drew. And
we'll go to hello. Somebody's snuck in. Hotel, how are you, mate?
Good evening, gentlemen. Yeah, I'm all right.
Sorry.
Thought I'd come and join the brigade and carry on smiling.
Good. We'll just we'll keep on tail quickly. Lord Rodney Trotter in the chat clearly has no time for young players who are far from their peak. Says tell is garbage. I know.
Just come on.
I know, right? And you're in your prime, and you're nowhere near your peak.
Oh my lord.
What do we make of this? Big up, Lord Rodney Trotter. Appreciate it. What do we make of this? Is this I mean, I'm a firm believer that you can't really call a 19-year-old garbage, but that's just me. We'll open this up to the panel. Anyone got any thoughts?
I just reiterate again that you know, he is very young. The potential, the makings of a very good player are there, and I think he is warmed to the team very quickly. I watched him. He jumped over the fence yesterday to the barrier or whatever to run it into the away fans. He's obviously got a passion now for this team. We saw, you know, in the beginning he was a little disjointed. I think it's his first big move, you know, away from wherever, you know.
I mean, he hadn't played any minutes for Bayern. I mean, I think he had about 30 appearances last season, and I think he'd had about 8 appearances when he came to us. So very, very, very few minutes. Like, probably, arguably, I've had more minutes than he had this year.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
we had high expectations. What not really his fault,
right.
but when
Well,
you
is
put a
there
price
an
tag
argument? Is there an argument that we're kind of hung up on the fact that at the time we really, really needed somebody, or at least we thought the theory was that the thing was that we needed somebody maybe to hit the ground running. We needed somebody maybe 24, 25, 26. A perfect storm or perfect scenario would have been somebody like Mateus Cunha, just for example, to just come in and save the day across the front line. And instead, we went with a 19-year-old that had no football in his legs and expected him to pull up trees. We'll get we'll get your last thoughts, Alan, then we'll come to you, Tel.
Yeah, I think I was one of those people that was hoping for someone to hit the ground running because we have so many young players. It's not Matthias Tell's fault that he's only 19 and that in the end, that's who I guess Ange wanted, was someone young with his potential, not for the here and now, but for the future. It's not his fault. The price tag, just like with Brendan Johnson, it's not his fault what the price tag was. We just want to see results. And I guess with Matthias Tell, really, if we're leveling our expectations, we should just want to see someone that has the potential to be great in the next couple of years, because it's an investment in the future. So he's not talking GA.
I think the vast majority of fans would want Tell at the club next year at the right price. Vast majority. I think Dave in the chat, if I can call him that, is in a small minority. He's not garbage. I mean, it's he's evidently not garbage. I think he can do a job, but it has to be at the right price.
Jose?
I like Matthias Tell. I did before we bought him. I watched him for Bayern Munich last season. Matthias Tell, for anybody, I'm going to bore people because I said this when we first got him. Matthias Tell is not a number 9. Matthias Tell is not a winger. Matthias Tell is a player, is an inside forward who plays out from the left, like the new football fads. You got to cut inside. So he's predominantly he plays down the left, but he's right-footed. He's strong on his right foot. So he can go in and out on a player, right? But he's a wide forward. As I said, he's an inside forward. When we brought him up to the club, right, got to realise, people, that we had Werner was out injured at the time. Richarlison was out injured at the time. And we had somebody, Mikey Moore was out injured with his illness at the time. So for the front three, they wanted to pad up the front three. So they bought Matthias Tell in on loan to pad up the front three until we got, see what he's like, get your players back. Matthias Tell, for the first couple of games, he's coming to the Premiership. The nearest league to us is probably the German league where he came from, but he wasn't playing this season. Didn't get hadn't had many minutes. He's coming to us. It's slightly a faster pace, the Premiership, than the German league, although it's the nearest league to us in similarity. And for me, Matthias Tell is doing a decent job, and people have got to remember that he's age, but he's doing a decent job. But the only concern I've got with Matthias Tell is I wouldn't mind signing him, but probably for a live figure. But the problem I've got that I see with Matthias Tell is what happens to our Mikey Moore. Is the pathway being blocked for Mikey Moore if we go ahead and sign Matthias Tell? Now, the only way that it works on signing Matthias Tell is if Mikey Moore, it's either players have got to leave the club, right, or Mikey Moore is going to be used as a number 10, because otherwise you're going to block Mikey Moore's path, and that's my concern for Mikey Moore.
But what happens if Son leaves, Jose?
Yeah, that's what I said. If players leave,
leaves,
that's what I said. If players leave, yeah, but Solomon hasn't been with us this season, so to speak. So Therefore, I'm not really counting this on because he's not been with us. But yeah, I did say unless players leave, then for me it's blocking Mikey Moore's path. Unless you're going to play Mikey Moore in a different position. Now, I'll be honest, Odobert. If I'll ask you guys, right, who's been better, Odobert or Tell? Because for me, both of them. If I look at both of them, I think for Tottenham in a Tottenham shirt, Matthias Tell's shown more than Odobert in a Tottenham shirt. Odobert has shown more than Matthias Tell in an under-21 French shirt, but I'm talking about in a Tottenham shirt. And however we look at it, we've got two young players there, right, that people would have bit your hand off to buy, right, or to purchase these two players, because France at the moment have got oodles and oodles of players that are coming through that are absolute quality in the 18, 19, 20-year-old bracket. And, you know, at the end of the day, we've got them. And, you know, we've still got 4 games to go. So we can assess him for the next 4 games and that. And then I'm sure a decision we made. 65 million might be a bit too much for me. In all honesty, if I've got to deal with Bayern Munich and I've got the Harry Kane money hovering around, right, and I want to do a deal with Bayern, then it may be better well spent going in for João Paulinho, so you get your Monster 6. But that's just me. But I like Tell. I like him.
I had this that question come up in the chat, so if it's all right, Drew, I'll pick up on it, because I thought I said earlier somewhere between 25 and 30 million plus add-ons, decent add-ons, would be the kind of price I'd be looking to pay. Whether that's what Bayern would accept, I don't know, but that would be where I saw his value at the moment in this market, given our finances. So I don't know what you think. Anyone else, or Jose, you picked up on this?
Yeah, so for me, I'm just going to say that to me, Odobert plays on one side, Tell plays on the other for the French under-21s, right? And so for me, at this present moment in time, in their trajectory in their careers at the moment, I think they're much of the same, so to speak. Only that one plays left, one plays right. How much did we pay for Odobert? Was it 25 million?
Yeah,
I don't know what the add-ons were. So
I think
for
somewhere
me,
around that, probably.
It was 25 million. Don't know about the add-ons on it, but if we paid that much for Odobert, then I'd say similarly, you're probably looking at Tell a similar kind of price. Although, as I said, in a Tottenham shirt, I believe that Tell has shown me more than Odobert in a Tottenham shirt. But in a blue shirt of France, if you watch the under-21s, Odobert's actually shown more than Tell.
Is there an argument that if we bought Tell from Burnley and we bought Odobert from Bayern Munich, we'd be paying 65 mil for Odobert and 25 for Tell? Is it just the way that the football, you know, that's just how football works, because one's come from one club, he's worth X, and because one's coming from another, he's worth Y, and there's just a kind of unsaid tax on that because it is Burnley and Bayern Munich, or has that got nothing to do with it?
But to be honest, if you look at the money, sorry, Adrian, if you look at the money and the merry-go-round that you have in Germany are not as precious as what the English clubs are. The English clubs will try and bleed you dry, won't they? You know, if you're going to buy one of the players from England, we'll charge you 100 million for the player. The Germans don't actually tend to do that. So I think that if Tottenham are serious about Tell, I think they can go back to the drawing board with Bayern and strike a deal for him. But, like I said earlier, with the money that's outstanding on the Kane deal, I would have thought that you could probably get... Who says why for 65 million, you go back in and you get Tell and you bring Paulinho with him? That's just 65 million. He's not 65 on his own.
Thing is, Odobert is our player. So we're only really talking about whether we want to keep Tell, and we only want to keep him if we think it's a reasonable price for him. If not, we're not short of young talent. So, and like you say, I want to see Mikey Moore given more game time, especially now we're in this final. But I'm sure we'll get onto it. But yeah.
Lord Rodney Trotter says 15, 20 mil max, and we've already paid 10.
I don't think we'll pay 10 mil on the loan, probably 5. I don't think we paid 10. But
and then Paul G, big up Paul G, says, mate, you're about right. Wouldn't want to pay more than 30. David Clark says Odegaard tore England's under 21s apart.
In a blue shirt, not in a Tottenham white shirt. That's what I'm saying. Odegaard's look good in the blue French shirt, but the white shirt tells look better than Odegaard.
Yeah, and then Lord Rodney Trotter back in again. Big up Lord Rodney Trotter. He's got a lot to say this evening. Says, according to stats this season, Odegaard has been fairly comfortably better. What's this? As 5.88 progressive carries per game. But then I mean, you come in with some facts here, which look like they're legit. But then I got to pull you up on this because you turn around and say that Tell is a wide target man, like Patrick Kluivert was. And I'm sorry, but I'm old enough to know that Patrick Kluivert was straight down the middle, son.
He was centre forward. He was. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you very much. But thank you very big up.
Another thing with Tell is, I mean, if you're saying you want him for 15 or 20 or 25 mil, you ain't getting him because there's lots of clubs that will pay more than that. I mean, he is a 35 million pound player, like, you know, so in that minimum, and half of Europe was watching him. Chelsea were even thinking of cut. You see with these other reports, we're not the only club in for Tell. We're not the only one.
And you got to appreciate us, right? Well, this is all spin, right? We don't know all the ins and outs of the deal. We don't know what's going on. I can guarantee you one thing: Daniel Levy is not sitting down and paying 65 mil for this kid at the end of the season. Another deal will be done that suits Daniel Levy because this one doesn't. He I think, just agreed with this just to get it over the line. Is my assumption because I just don't think he's going to like. We've not seen him. You know, show much when it comes to paying that sort of money for at least kids that haven't proven themselves. So I'd be happy with another loan and something in the region of 30 to 40 million, depending on how he performs. Because, you know, if he sets the world alight, you've obviously got to pay for it.
And while you're on the subject of wingers, I mean, like Solomon's got 10 goals and 13 assists for Leeds, right? Yeah. We don't know what's happening with him. We know Marseille are interested.
Is he good enough, though? Is he good enough?
Well, the only reason he was loaned to Leeds was because we didn't want another player. I mean, Udogie didn't have a pre-season injury. Odegaard had come back from that injury, that bad injury, right? So the easy option was actually to loan him out to Leeds, rather than otherwise you've got to work him into a season. Is he good enough? Well, he had 2 cameos of about 15 minutes on the right wing. And then when we won away at Everton, 5-2. He had 2 assists for Son's hat-trick at Burnley, When we won away at Burnley 5-2, he had 2 assists for Son. And I looked at him like when he was going down the wing, and he's one of those wings that he does look up before he puts the ball in. He does look up, you know. So, and I think he looks decent. I don't know if he's Premiership standard because I haven't seen enough of him in it. But he did all right at Burnley, and he looked a tricky winger on his 2 appearances. So I think, look, we'll end up with we've got Yang Min Hook as well, you know. So I think Solomon will actually be sold. I think he'll be sold because, like we discussed earlier, we owe 337 million on transfers. We need to know we're getting some money in and if we get an easy deal done quickly, it means we can move in the market quickly, you know. But we'll see. We'll see. The problem is our forward line isn't good enough at the end of the day.
Yeah, the rotation that we've got, you're starting 3 and the rotation are not good enough. No. You need to have better. I mean, if you look at some of the other teams around, well, they're not around us, should I say, they're a lot higher than us, where we aspire to be. You look at their front threes, and you know, and they've got their first front three, and they've got 3 front threes that can come off the bench. And you know, when I compare what we've got, although saying that though, I'm comparing what we've got, but got to remember that for some of these people, it's their first season. So your Odegaards, your Tells, and people like that, it's their first season. Mikey Moore, it's his first season. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know whether we're also being a bit over the top, you know, really hammering these guys and looking at this. It is their first season.
We don't see them in training, do we? But the word from the training ground is they really like Tell. So the videos I watched of him, he's when he's looked good, he's always been on the left, playing on the left. If you go and watch any videos, you see him, and he looks good on the left, right? But would he have a future? Well, we've seen wingers converted from wing to number 9 before, like that annoying striker Arsenal had, Henry.
Is there an argument? Is there an argument that could do a job on the right hand side, and then you play more on the left, or you just have any sort of concoction of the 2 or the 4? Because, I mean, to people's points in I think in the chat, and also a couple of you guys, you need, if we're gonna start competing on multiple fronts and not having to do this sacrifice one competition for another competition, you're going to need to start, you need to start bringing in players, but you also can't slog them to death. So the likes of a Tell, Johnson, Hugh, kind of more all sort of rotating and vying for, 2 spots across 4 competitions. I mean, you start to even it out and actually have some game management. I mean, surely you strive to get good young talent in your squad to either nurture or make a profit on, right? That's the name of the game, no?
You can play more as a number 10, though. You can play more anywhere in midfield, as far as I'm concerned, and on both wings.
In real terms, the bigger issue for us in real terms is we've got a Europa Cup final to play.
Big up, Spurs.
And
yep.
At the end of the 21st of May, late in the evening, we will then know whether we're going to follow plan A or whether we're following plan B. Because we could talk about all this, but you lose the Europa Cup final, we are definitely going down plan B route. Win the Europa League final. And if we're serious about what we're doing, then we have to follow a plan A. We have to follow an elite plan rather than a professional plan, so to speak. To name 2 different things.
Yeah. Well, you must have been looking over my shoulder when I was doing my discussion points earlier on.
I'm really sorry.
No, you're fine, mate. You're fine, because you segued nicely onto this. 2 different pathways in the club's future, depending on if you in the Europa League and qualify for the Champions League. Now, my follow-on from that was, does Ange get the chance regardless, or has too much happened, and is there a logical break point here? But, I mean, we can take this wherever you want. You can take this down the route of, finances, what players we could get as opposed to what players we couldn't get. I mean, I'll let you guys. I mean, I don't know if anyone wants to start particularly. Yeah. Ian, we'll go in a clockwise, and we'll have you come in. Before I do, sorry, just big up to Spud in the chat. Thanks for coming in, mate. Appreciate it.
Just a harmless potato.
Yeah, I'll admit to flip-flopping. Yep. If anybody was following me on social media coming up 2 years ago, I was saying Ange Postecoglou is the only man we need for this job. Absolutely the only one. I thought he had every credential, the way he played the game, his success record, etc., etc. He was the man we wanted. I would be a liar though if I don't say that there's been a lot of times when I've been really disappointed. Some of the I know we've had injuries, but some of the performances, some of the tactics, some of the naivety have driven me demented at times, particularly when I talked about it earlier in the show about the big gaps that have appeared between the back 4 and what's left of the midfield as it's passed through when we're caught in transition too often, fullbacks out of position, etc., etc. We've all seen it, and you go, and if you can't fix this, and we're this easy to play against for every team, and we've lost to Ipswich, and we've lost. Did we lose to we lost to Southampton as well, didn't we? I mean, we've lost to some utter dross this season. We nearly got knocked out the cup at Tamworth as well. We were too close there. But, and there's no getting away from the fact he has got us to a European final. And he's got us to a European final that we might win in a situation where, yes, go back to it, I win things in my second year. I know he didn't say that, but the reality is he does win things in his second year. And if he wins this cup, to me, it would be utterly churlish to get rid of him now. I think the fans appear to be warming to him. The impression I get from the stuff, and there's actually some quotes come. I think it's Ali Gold has put some stuff on X tonight about Udogie, saying how much the players like him. I saw what I saw in the dressing room, that thing that's been on social media where he addresses the player. There's clearly a lot of harmony in the club, and to this going back, this, and Adrian and I have discussed this on streams. There's rinse, wash, rinse, repeat, sack another manager, bring another one in. Where's the guarantee that whoever you bring in, whether it's Silva, Iraola, Glasner, Frank, Xavi, any of them are going to do any better than Ange would given another season? I think the last few weeks appear to me to have shown that he's actually really got it as far as the Premier League is concerned. He's understood he needs to adapt his tactics. And having adapted those tactics, we look for a very difficult side to beat. We might not be quite as attractive as Ange would like, or I would like, but I would like to see Ange stay. I know I flip-flopped. Oh, God, he's never going to make it. But if he can show the pragmatism, the adaptability, the wherewithal to change his tactics depending upon the personnel he's got available, to cut out some of the naivety and the stupid goals we've given away, and then the games that we've lost. At some point, as I say, we have to move away from this. Get a manager, 18months.com, away you go. Another one comes in, 18 months, off you go. You can't run any successful business like that. Yeah. So,
fair enough.
Yeah.
We'll just piggyback onto this because Nita just had a question in the chat, and it sort of goes hand in hand with what we're sort of discussing. Ange in, Ange out. What are our long-term plans for the football side of our club? Trophy, no trophy. Say what you see long-term in mind. So we'll just keep on going around clockwise. Alan, what's your sort of thoughts on, the general sort of direction of the club? Obviously, I think we're all in agreement. There's two pretty distinct pathways. There's like a fork in the road, right? Do you see, as I say, take it where you prefer, if the style of play you'd like to see, whether you think Ange deserves a chance or not, go run with it for a sec.
Well, look, Ange has a contract, that he doesn't have to. There's no one unless the team forces him to leave. There's nothing forcing him otherwise to not make good on and fulfill the rest of his contract. So I don't see why, if he's comfortable and feels like things are going better, I don't know why he would have any impetus at all to get up and go. But that said, if you're asking for a personal opinion about which way, I got a feeling there's a lot of water under the bridge. We're still 19 losses this season, which is a big deal. We need to do better in the Premier League. I appreciate the Europa. We're in the finals. I think we can win. But, and having a Europa League trophy would be amazing. But we're 16. I think we're 16th in the league right now. And that's a hard, bitter pill to swallow. I don't know that is something that the fans can get behind again. If this is, I guess if I knew that this was going to be the type of pain we were going to have to go through with Ange before we start to get better, I don't know that I would have wanted to go on that ride. But I think that Ange probably also, based on his interviews, I don't know that Tottenham is exactly what he expected. I think it's very much not what he expected. I think that, with his relationship with the fans, I think his relationship with the press, I think the way he's had to battle I think with Levy and whatnot, I think it's just overall, it's not what he expected. And I don't know if he's happy there or not. Ange is kind of, a good poker player. He's got a good poker face. Although he does have a lot of emotion, I think when it comes to certain things, he keeps it close to the chest. And I think how he feels about this club, he's probably keeping close to the chest. I would be surprised if he's here next season, personally.
Okay.
It's not my preference per se. I just want stability for the team. And if the team is now sort of on the right trajectory, I don't want to upset that balance and that upwards trajectory.
Right.
Yeah, give me $5 million. I'd be happy anywhere. I appreciate that. There is something to be said about that, but I think at that level in the game, for coaches at the elite level, they're like the players. They don't want to sit on the bench. They don't want to be told what to do all the time. They want to affect change. They want to win on their terms. I think there's a certain amount of ego involved. There's a certain, not negatively, just
no, I know what you mean.
There is a certain amount, and
just to throw something into the pot before we bring.
Hang on 1 second. Sorry, 1 second, Adrian. We are just going to say goodbye to Ian. Looks like he's going to bow out from us. Just wanted to say thank you very much for popping on this evening and giving us your wisdom.
Pleasure. And I'll see those of you around. I think Adrian's going to pick up at the beginning on Sunday, but I'll see you all on Sunday night. So
perfect.
Thanks all. And
take care, Ian. See you later, mate.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye.
Nice one. Take care, mate. Take care.
Just on the latest.
Shit.
You haven't, have you?
What?
Uh-oh. What you done?
No, I haven't.
All right, everybody. And this is Ian just having a meltdown because he thinks he's closed the stream, but he hasn't. So.
I think he's glitching.
I nearly did
in real time.
Studio.
In real time, guys and girls. Imagine what he's going to be like in the final. We'll see you later, Ian.
Yeah, I hope if I do, can you start it up again if I buggered it?
I mean, worst case scenario, yes. You just want me to kick you out? I can remove you if you like.
Yeah. Cheers, everybody. No, I'll leave the studio here.
Yeah, play them all.
Right. Get out of it.
Good evening, Steve. Just on the manager
thing. Ian. Appreciate you, Ian, mate.
Apparently,
Steve, we'll say hello to you quickly. How you doing, my friend?
I'm well, and I do want to apologize for my tardiness. I had a roofer show up unexpectedly, and of course I had to take care of that. So I do apologize for the tardiness. And also congratulations to all of you guys. We're European finalists, so you know what, it's a beautiful feeling. So I do want to say congratulations, especially to you, Adrian, and you, Drew. You guys have been around forever and a day.
Thank you very much.
These finals do not come every single year for this football club. So when we get the opportunity to potentially lift a European trophy, it's beautiful for the entire Spurs nation, whether you're in the United States or in England or in Scotland or in Australia or wherever you are. Congratulations to all of you guys out there. This is as much about you as it also is about us as well too. So everybody, I'm over the moon thrilled. So yeah.
Awesome.
So staying with you, Steve, because I was going to mention this and ask everyone this. Paratici, if he comes in, the rumour is he'll come in as technical director. So Johan Langer may be staying. We don't know what's happening with Scott Munn.
I doubt it.
None of it's confirmed.
I doubt it.
I want you. Paratici likes De Zerbi, and he's manager of Marseille, I think, at the moment. So, what do you think of De Zerbi? You like him or not?
It's a good question. I don't know enough about him. I can't say that I'm a big watcher of Ligue 1 in France, but what I will say is that it's a tough. This is a tough situation, right? The question I have for you is raising a Europa League trophy good enough to erase everything that's happened this year?
No.
Right. So when you're talking about the results in the league, see, on one hand, we got to within 90 minutes of Wembley in the League Cup. We should have got farther in the FA Cup, but things happened. And then we have the league competition. which we're close to approaching 20 wins, right? But then you have the Europa League, and it's a European trophy. So that is the tough question. Okay, when I think about Ange Postecoglou and I think about everything that he's done for the club this year, and yes, I understand 19 losses, 20 losses. You should never be able to keep a job. But when you look at the incompetence that's directly above him, and he has taken everything off the chin in the press, questions that he has no business answering, they should be directed to either Daniel Levy or to Johan Lang or Scott Munn. Ange Postecoglou has been sitting front and center all season long. He's the one that has been running point all season long. And that being said, there's a lot of respect that is earned, which is probably why he's still in this job right now. That being said, he has the potential of beating a Premier League rival and lifting a European trophy. My question to you is: does it erase? I mean, to me, it erases the injury, everything that happened in the injury crisis, and it erases a lot of negativity up to the league performances. But that being said, my biggest thing is Paratici. I know for a fact that Paratici didn't want him to begin with, anyways. So there's always going to be that factor. But how do you literally sack a dude that just won you your first European trophy since 1984? Our first piece of silver since 2008. Like, how is but here's the rub, right? If you do keep him, now you're in a situation almost like Manchester United had with Eric Ten Hag coming off an FA Cup when nobody above him wanted him. And that's what I get. I get the impression that nobody above Ange Postecoglou wants to keep him around next season. But that being said, he just won you your first piece of silverware, which is something that this club just generally does not do well and hasn't done in quite a while. So that's the rub. And that's why I don't like the situation.
United.
Yeah.
Right. I understand.
There's three outcomes, aren't there? And we don't know because we don't know if Paratici is going to have a say in this or whether it's already decided. Whether looking with so much, everything at a club is about as transparent as mud. I mean, you got the three options. Either he wins the trophy and he sticks his things up and say, I'm off anyway. But that means kissing by 10 mil on his last 2 years of his contract, right? But he'd probably get a constant compensation package anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
with a gagging clause as usual. Then you've got.
But it was all.
Then he thinks he wins it.
To be cheaper. It was also going to be cheaper if he finished the season.
Yeah. He wins it and he decides to stay because he wants to crack at the Champions League, or he wins it and Levy sacks him anyway. I mean, they are the three options, right? And we don't know, do we? We don't know. We can speculate. We don't know. I think he's gone. Personally, I think he's gone no matter if he wins it or not.
What this run tells me that Spurs are considerably better than the secondary clubs in Europe, right? Mm-hmm. If this was the Champions League, they don't get this far, right? So they're clearly better than the secondary clubs in Europe. That's the first thing. But the second thing is, the second thing to me is that it puts Tottenham in such a precarious situation because clearly these players have proven to everyone, not just the fans, but also the people that are above them, that these players actually do play for him and actually believe in him, and have also adjusted to his adjustments. Right, like this club hasn't played Ange ball in forever and a day. Right, they are playing like yesterday was a perfect example of the pragmatism that he's absolutely shown. Which is something that fans were clamoring for at the beginning of the season. So these players not only are playing very hard for him, but they're also adjusting with how he's looking at this team and how he wants to play. So it's weird. There's it's almost this weird situation where Ange Postecoglou is going to enter this off season like relatively bulletproof to a point. Like that to me is like the weird thing a little bit, right? It's like he's gonna have things that are going to be in his. Like that are going to work in his positives. This is going to be like one of the hardest decisions I think Daniel Levy and Paratici are going to have to make.
We discussed earlier, Steve, because it's no fluke the team's changed because it did well defensively away at Brentford 2-0. Yeah. It did well at Frankfurt away 1-0. It did well yesterday 2-0. Yeah. I mean, you do it once, fine. Get away with it twice. You do it three times. It's not a fluke. It's not a fluke.
And I think this was the first time that Spurs won back-to-back road games in a European competition since 2013. Like it's been a while since we've been able to win back-to-back matches on the road in European play. So you're absolutely right, Adrian. It's not a fluke.
Just quickly, guys, we just got to a nice little stopping point here for a second. Mr. Rakdos Madness has got some family in town, so he needs to bid us farewell. Just last thoughts on just the team getting to Bilbao, how it makes you feel, and then just give your channel a little plug.
I'm very excited about Bilbao. I'm sort of
speechless. He is.
Yes, I was speechless because I was kind of I had all the stuff planned for what happens if we were to lose, but winning. I will say I'm very confident about us going against Manchester United. I know they have Slabby Maguire. They've got in his big old slab, and they've got Bruno Fernandes, and they've got but this is a team that is also in the Premier League. They are just 1 point ahead of us. We've beaten them 3 times this season. I don't think we've lost to them for a while, more than just this season. This is a team that is Ruben Amorim described as the worst Manchester United team in recent memory, and so I don't want to. I was more nervous going into the Bodo game, I think, than I am against Manchester United. Manchester United is a team we've played. We played them 3 times already this season, more than any other team.
3-0,
and we've beaten them each time.
Yep.
And I think we have their number. It's kind of like Man City. We kind of have their number. I think with Manchester United, at least with this mix of players. And remember that Mason Mount, I think, is going to be playing. They have some of their players.
Had a pretty good game against Bilbao.
Yeah, Xerxes, when they played against us, actually had a pretty good game. I think Xerxes even scored against us. He's out. I think we have the makings of a European winning team. So
I'm not worried about with them, Alan. I mean,
well, hang on, Adrian. Sorry, we don't want to go down the railroad again because Alan's got to go. So we'll just what you got going on at Team Tottenham Go? Anything coming up?
I was actually going to tell Jose I'm working on my final bid on Heung-min Son and Ange. Kind of my thoughts and feelings about them. Son as captain and Ange as coach and manager. So I'll be putting that out at some point.
All right, awesome. We'll stay tuned for that. Well, thanks very much for giving us your time this evening. I hope you have a lovely weekend with the family.
Thank you. My pleasure.
We'll chat to you soon. Nice one, man. Take care.
Take it easy.
Thank you, Alan.
Jose, on Man United and their squad, when we played them 3 times, 1, did I think they picked the wrong lineups against us anyway? And 2, he was playing like, even at Old Trafford when you watched them play, there's some old players in that team.
When they played against us, they played with a midfield 3, if I remember, Casemiro, Ericsson and Fernandes. And we walked right through them.
Exactly.
We walked right through them in the matches that we played. And it's interesting because I think we've beaten them twice. No, sorry, we've beaten them once under Ten Hag, which was a 3-0 away.
Yep.
And then I think we've then beaten them twice under Amorim, which is the 1-0 at our place and the 4-3 at our place as well. And at the end of the day, listen, no final is going to be easy, right? No. It doesn't matter who you meet in the final, but then no semi-final's easy. And, no game is easy when you reach these stages. But we seem to have received our players back at the right time. So where we had all these injuries before, these players are picking up a head of steam at the right time for us. In saying that, though, forget about Man United's league form. I look at them in Europe, and Man United, and I couldn't understand this stat, but Man United have not lost in Europe at all this season.
They will on the 21st.
Yeah, but I'm just saying they haven't lost in Europe at all this season so far. But at the end of the day, if we hand on heart, we all turned around and we were asked, we saw the route to the final and that. And as each round, knockout round went along, and we then get a choice, you can see clearer. I would have said to you that 9 out of 10 people that you asked the question of would have wanted Man United in the final rather than Atletico Bilbao. Because Atletico Bilbao would have been the home side. The only thing that Man United have got over us at the moment is they've already played at Bilbao and they've already used the away dressing room. Because when it comes to the final, we are the home team, aren't we? So we get the home dressing room.
We playing white, traditional European white.
Yeah, but you know what? Do you know what I kind of miss, Adrian, from watching yesterday's game and watching Frankfurt?
I want to play in green.
And it's 6 years ago. Yeah, 6 years ago against Ajax is the green. Why can't we play the final in green? We turn up when we're green.
Yeah, we won 2 UEFA Cups.
It's got to be in white, mate. Come on,
it's
got to be in white.
Yeah, it's got to be.
You know,
and the reason behind the white, actually, for those that don't know, the history behind the white, it's not that we were copying Los Blancos Real Madrid. It was just that Bill Nicholson turned around and said, if you look at the old black and white pictures and shit, and I've got about 1,200 photos, I think. But if you look up the old black and white pictures under the floodlights, you see all this shadow around the players. I'm sure some of the viewers will have seen them. And Nicholson said for European games, played midweek, he wanted the players to be able to see each other better. So that's how the white strip came into the club, the all white strip.
You know, the interesting thing, though, is that I think it's all about mentality for this final, really, when you think about it. Because in 2019, I think we were just happy to be there. And if you remember that semifinal when we came back and thumped Ajax, if you remember that celebration, it almost felt like that was the championship right there. That semifinal win, getting over that hurdle to get there. Where Liverpool was not faced because they have that experience before. So to me, the good part about playing Manchester United is we've been down that road so many times, and we've came up, especially this year, we've came up good. So these players have that in the back of their mind. They have that in their locker, understanding that they did it under Ten Hag when the players clearly did not. Were not invested, and we got him against Amorim. Yes, it was a little bit earlier in Amorim's tenure there, but still, it still applies. These players have that knowledge about how they want to play, how they're going to move, and some of these different aspects that I would just assume that they're going to be primed and ready to do this because they know they can beat them. They know they can beat Manchester United. Like that, there should be no secrets between the two clubs. And there should be no fear going into it, regardless of whether they're playing at White Hart Lane, whether it's at Old Trafford in Bilbao. It doesn't matter. Anytime, anywhere, any place, they're going to be fired up and ready to go.
I think what we don't know, which is interesting because Man United won't know it either, we haven't got a clue what a few of the positions will be, who will play, whether someone will stake a claim to be in the final squad, because in the team, because if Son could be back, you're saying Son and Solanke. You don't know on the right if that would happen that way. If someone like Mikey Moore gives good performance and players to 10, because we're going to miss Maddison's creativity, but then we might play like we did yesterday at Bodo Glimt. So I don't know. Then you could put Decky wide right again, and I think he's people say it's not his position, but
do you, Adrian? Do you really think that Ange Postecoglou would roll the dice with Mikey Moore at the 10 in the European final? Do you really think that?
No, not at this stage now. But if he was to play well between now, there's 2 games between now and the final. You'd think even in the Villa away game. But it's a question of whether he wants his cup final team to have games in their legs in the next 2 games. Villa away on a Friday, most fans won't fancy that. But if it's just game time and exercise, whether you lose the game, we might see his team then. Sunday he could make changes. I fancy us to beat Palace and Brighton. Palace, we've beaten them the last 9 times we played at the State at White Hart Lane, right? So we've got a good record against them. We also got a good record at Brighton. Villa away, it's tough. We've won there 4-0 and we've lost there, right? So that could go either way. But I won't back my team to lose. But I mean, So we have no idea. I mean, it could be. I mean, Basuma, Kulusevski, and Bentancur. It's only one player different to the 10-game unbeaten run beginning of last season when Maddison was the other player there. And then you've got I think it. Personally, I think it will go with experience.
Well, let me ask you. This. Sorry to cut across you, Adrian. Let me ask you because I've heard on numerous channels today, numerous times, that because Bergvall is out and because Maddison is out, we have no creativity. What are your guys' thoughts on that? And Steve, we'll come to you first, and then go back up to Adrian, unless Jose comes back, and then we'll go over to him.
I think it starts with Dejan Kulusevski, and I thought yesterday in that first half, I actually thought he did some nice things well. I thought you saw some signs that he's starting to come good and get back to his form, his pre-injury form. I thought as the game went along, you can see there was fatigue because he had 90 minutes the 4 days prior at West Ham. So I know that played into as he was tailing off in the second half. But that being said, I thought in the first half there were some nice moments for him. Maybe he was getting into good space. I thought his passing looked pretty good at certain times. Right now, it wasn't consistent. But that being said, for a European final, I would probably assume that that's going to happen. You're going to see him in that role alongside Rodrigo Betancourt. Now, the question to me isn't necessarily going to be the 10. It's who's going to be playing in that 6 role. But I can't see. Here's the thing. Even if Sonny is back for that final, and I would probably assume that he might. I don't see the Ange Postecoglou moving him into that role. I can't see anybody really outside of potentially Betancourt that would play that. But that being said, I think Ange likes him in the position that he's at, and it would probably at this point it would be Kulu, it would be Decky. And I don't want to mess with that. I don't want to mess with that because I actually think outside of Maddison, when he's 100% sharp, he is also a very technically gifted player.
Yeah.
The question is whether or not he's going to be back to his pre-injury status, where he was essentially as sharp as Maddison when it came to creativity.
Adrian?
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll go for experience as it stands now, unless something striking happens between now and the next 2 games. Is Sonny going to get a half Sunday, second half, to get some time on his legs? Will he get a half against Villa away to get a bit more time on his legs? Kulu's got to play because he's gradually getting it back, right? So, so Kulu needs game time the next 2 games. I'm not talking playing necessarily 90 minutes. And then if you need, who to wrap up in cotton wool? I mean, do you rest Romero and VDV? I mean, I think they will get halves possibly, whatever. You want to keep them ticking over. So you really want to give them halves, but you can only make 5 subs. So
right.
you're probably going to let VDV up.
Let me ask you this, Adrian. Last night, Kulu was very, very much a sort of a number 10. And the other 2 were playing sort of the pivot. So you had sort of a triangle with the 2 and the 1 on the top. Typically, when you see Maddison play that role, he tends to drop a lot deeper than I was seeing Kulu drop last night to pick up the ball. Now, was that to do with the very regimented way that they were going to play the game? Or is that the difference between Kulu and Maddison, or was Kulu just trying to save himself and not do too much back and forth, or combination of all 3?
I haven't thought of it before, but I would think it more to do that we had a midfield pivot or 2, didn't we? So he could stay there.
Okay.
And it worked well because you've got, like the Italians do, they have like 4. They have the 2 centre backs and the 2 midfielders in front of them.
Yeah,
that
big
solid
square.
Block. Yeah, big square, big block. And you can do that if because we weren't expansive.
Well, and that square was very apparent last night, and I think it does make it a lot easier. Steve, will come over to you. So it makes it a lot easier for Bissouma to track one half of the field and Bentancur to track the other, especially when Porro or Udogie were pushing forward. You saw that rotation of the 2 pivots going out to cover that space and then working their way back in when the fullbacks came back.
Correct.
So Yeah, I mean, is that
Yeah.
just those guys remembering how to play together? Is that a very regimented coaching routine for this specific game, or what was it?
I think it had a lot to do with Ange's tactics, right? We weren't playing expansive for a reason. We were protecting a 2-goal lead, and it was funny because I was talking to
He doesn't do that, Steve. He doesn't do that. He doesn't protect 2-goal leads. He just goes gung ho. What are you talking about, man?
If I don't know if I WhatsApped you, but I sent it over to Dave, and I was like, do my eyes deceive me? Like, are we parking the bus in a semifinal? Because that's not Ange Postecoglou at all. Because at one point in the first half, early in the first half, it almost felt like there were 8 to 10 men behind the ball, and they were just giving possession away to Bodo Glimt and just being like, all right, do what you will. But as what was interesting is as the game progressed, I think a lot of that had to do with it because I saw Basuma and Betancourt just camped in the middle of the Campton passing lanes. And we were actually getting a tremendous amount of interceptions. And so, Kula didn't have to drop down to make a touch. That was already done for him. So he was playing a little bit more higher up the field. And I think that's actually beneficial for him because when the ball came to him, he actually had multiple options when he turned and looked forward. There was multiple options for him to pick out. Now, again, there were some good moments, but then there was also some actual piss poor moments from him as well too. And I think a lot of that has to do with his rust. And I will not allow anybody to. By the way, I will not allow anybody to shit talk Kulusevski because when he's in banging form, he's the best player on the team. And I don't think there's any comparison.
Well,
listen,
Adrian,
this is what I believe, man. In Kulu, we trust, man.
Yeah, fair play.
He's got a freaking song named after him. He's got his own song.
Jose's back. Well, I'll tell you what, Jose, we'll come over to you. Chinwag Spurs, big up. I've not seen you in here before. Appreciate you coming in, checking us out. Jose, come on, let's be honest. Opposition was piss poor.
Bodo.
Uh-huh.
I don't think they're piss poor.
No, I think what happened was, right, is they've had a recent set of results. People looked them up. They played 30 and they'd won 30 out of 37 in Europe. You look a bit deeper than that. Some of the early victories for them in Europe were playing in the Conference League against Vilnius and Ludebings and all these names that you've never even heard of. But then recently, in recent times,
sure,
or in more recent seasons, in more recent seasons, they've played against other teams, and they've played well. They've used the pitch to their advantage, and they've used, their stadium to their advantage to get good results. On the road, we know that they're not that great. Now, at the end of the day, I always said before we kicked the first ball in the first leg, I said Tottenham will get through. I said we'll win at home, and we'll get a bare minimum, we'll get a draw away. The night before the game yesterday on Spurs Talk Show, when Sean asked everybody what their predictions were, and everyone flooded the predictions, I was third one in, and I said 0-2. And I was the only person that predicted 0-2 in the whole of that chat. And at the end of the day, all we did is we're not an Italian team, we're not a French team, we're not a German team, we're not a Belgian team, we're not Swedish, we're a Premiership team. And a Premiership team went over there and we did a professional job. For me, Adrian jumped on a stream on this channel yesterday, straight after the game, and I went on. And I'll repeat what I said yesterday. We did a thoroughly professional job in the sense that for me, every player, instead of going out, it's not the time to start saying, I rate this player did this player did that. For me, it was a team effort. Every player deserves a starting point of 7.5. because it was a team effort. And it's not the right time to start saying, yeah, but X didn't do much and Y didn't do much. It was a team effort. We pressed from the front. We played nearly the whole of that game in transition as well. It just shows you how difficult the game was. But I am not, and I said it on my channel earlier on today when I did the predictions, is I'm telling people what I always tell people. Support Tottenham in your own way. Don't be a sheep and follow and be guided by people. Because the first thing I did yesterday after the game finished, I don't know why, I went to my phone because I'll never buy my phone when I watch football. And after the game, I went to my phone and I switched on YouTube. And the first Tottenham channel that I went on to, right, the first thing I actually heard them say was, "We're through to the final, but we were shit." Now, at the end of the day, these people that were saying this all week have been telling people on their shows that Bodo got a goal back against us at the stadium. It was all in Bodo's hands now. Bodo were going to do a number on us and all that. Now
it was going to be such an uphill battle, right, Jose?
Yeah,
we were going to see a completely different side. Therefore, world-class players were going to come back and just absolutely do a number on us. Wasn't that right?
Yes, and this is what I'm saying. The people, you should support the team, and instead of being followers, look through your own eyes, what you see, and decide yourself what you see. Do you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, for me yesterday, we put in a professional performance. I sat there, Drew, yesterday, and this is what I said on Adrian's show yesterday as well. I sat there so comfortable for the whole game. There is not one bit of me that said yesterday that we were going to leave with a defeat at that stadium yesterday. And
it was a calm, measured performance. We mentioned it right at the beginning. I don't know if you were actually listening, but yeah, just a very, not this really the sort of performance you kind of expect from us. It's the sort of performance you expect the likes of kind of your old Chelsea or your old school them lot down the road or Man United that would just go out and get the job done, sort of shut up shop, take a couple of chances whenever they needed to, and just go back home. And it kind of had echoes of that sort of vibe, right?
Yeah, but we played well. And I mean, at the end of the day, right, and for me, I don't care who I'm talking to now, whether it's the people in the chat or you guys on the panel. If people want Romero gone, you need your head tested. Romero is absolutely fucking
100%.
brilliant. He's a brilliant player. He's a World Cup winner. Why would you want to get rid? Tottenham have got to get this. People within the fan base have got to get this out of their head. Stop getting rid of our better players. Let's start building a team for the future around and have these better players in our team. People saying, no, he's got to go. His header set up Solanke's goal.
Correct.
The player that was marking him, the number 6, he was about 5 inches taller than Romero. But Romero jumped up so early and got hang time that he stopped the 2 players from jumping with him. He was up in the air, couldn't let the other 2, because he was leaning down on them, couldn't let the other 2 jump. And he was so far up in the air, I thought it was Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan in the air and giving an assist to Solanke. So let's stop getting rid of our better players. Udogie played really well yesterday as well. Porro, I thought, had a really good game. The 2 that pivoted in midfield, I thought played. The 2 that pivoted in midfield played really, really well. Solanke, okay, I knock him that he doesn't score enough goals. It's his first season with us, and I do knock him. I'm going to be honest. I do knock him saying he doesn't score enough. But, oh, my God, does he cover every blade of grass, and he's selfless for the team. At the end of the day, it was a thoroughly professional performance, and it doesn't matter who you are. I felt that okay, people are going to tell me that Frankfurt are ranked a better side, and they probably are in rankings a better side. But in the quarterfinals, the job that we went and did away at Frankfurt as well, it was a thoroughly professional job again. So, at the end of the day, it appears that we've got this in our locker and we're taking it out of our locker at the right time because we've now got a final to play.
Yeah, and you can virtually see the same team starting in the final. Perhaps Son might start, though. If he's fit, he'll start because he is our best goal scorer and scores with both feet. Slanky's on 13 goals now, Jose, and 8 assists. So that's not bad for your first season at a new club.
Do you know what, Adrian? You guys,
and he's heating up at the right time.
You guys have all watched Tottenham over the years as well. In finals, we have made selection mistakes in the past. Not just in one final. There's more than one final that is evidence of selection mistakes being made. And I just hope whatever selection we make for the final, I want it to be the right one because I want to win that trophy. So I want it to be the right one. And
Well,
whether it's
all the
playing
players
time,
will be fit when we get there. Whether there's a rumour of a Berger will be fit enough in time anyway. And then
Bergvall's not going to be. Bergvall's out.
How many
He's out.
We've only got there's only two games prior to the final, right?
13
We've got
days,
Palace,
Yeah,
Palace and Villa.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, Villa away Friday week. Villa away in a week's time, and we got Palace on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, for me personally, I'm the same as Jose. I'm not going down this scenario of just because we've got emotional ties to something and we want to see Sonny lift a trophy, unless he puts in really, really decent shifts over the next two games. I don't want him anywhere near the starting lineup. Maybe if we got this thing nailed down, maybe he comes on for 20 minutes. Do you know what I mean? He deserves to be on that pitch if he's available and can play a decent 20 minutes. I don't want us to go down this road of, oh, he's back, wouldn't it be so wonderful? And then we shoot ourselves in the foot because, to Jose's point exactly, we get a little bit too romantic and emotional. So
but
he'll
pick up the trophy anyway, Drew, because even if someone else captains it, and now the new thing is that two people pick up the trophy now, don't they?
Right.
So you could have your captain and your club captain both pick up the trophy at the same time. So even if he comes off the subs bench, he can still pick up the trophy. So, but yeah, I just don't want whatever we do on the day.
He says it's Chinwag Spurs here. Says problem is Ange will play him. I guarantee it. Does anyone honestly think Ange is that romantic?
No, I don't think he's that romantic. That being said, he does trust his senior players quite a bit, though. When certain guys came right back into the starting 11 as soon as they came back from injury, regardless of how well some of the squad players were playing. Christian Romero was being one of them. Van de Ven was being the other. Mikey Moore put in a decent performance as a center back, but as soon as those guys were available, straight to the starting 11. The question is which is more valuable, your center backs or your wingers, especially when you have a guy like Matisse Tell who's starting to play a little bit better as the weeks have progressed. The question is that going to be better than what Son is going to be able to give you absolutely cold, right? And I agree with you, Drew. If that dude can't, put it this way, if that dude can't give me a half, 45 minutes of high tempo football, you're absolutely right. He does not need to be anywhere around that starting 11.
He needs to do those, Steve, doesn't he? He needs to play a half in both these games before the final.
I mean, like he should be pushing 60. He should be pushing 60 minutes by that final for me to be comfortable enough for him to be in the 11. And if he's not, then I don't want to see him. I mean, we saw that with Kulusevski for a minute there when he came back. He didn't come right back into the starting 11. He was getting a half. He was getting.
I don't know that any of our players have a history of coming back quickly, do they, Steve?
That's exactly right. And not every player, and by the way, not every player is created equally. Some guys do come back from injury to grandmother, and other players actually need their time to get their match sharpness back up to speed. And we saw that a little bit with Solanke when he came back as well too. He didn't hit the ground running at all. So that being said, it is what it is. But what I will say is, it's like, and I hate to say it because I absolutely do not like Richarlison on the left wing. But that being said, I would be more comfortable with Richarlison starting that final, knowing that he actually can play 60, 70 minutes, and then having Sonny come on for the last 15 minutes, whatever the case may be. That would be a far more comfortable option. But that being said, if he's not even at 45, there's just no way you're gonna sabotage yourself before a final. It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, fair play. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. I just want to say thank you once again to everybody in the chat and everybody tuning in. We've got 103 people with us this afternoon. Big shout out to Nita, David Clark, Chinwag Spurs, Paul Brown, Lord Rodney Trotter, Inner Hype, everybody in the chat all joining in, give us stuff to talk to. Really appreciate it. Obviously, we don't necessarily agree with all the takes in here, but it's nice that we can have a conversation about it. Nobody gets too salty. At the end of the day, we are Tottenham Hotspur fans. We are the 2024-2025 Europa League finalists, soon to be winners. I think we can all agree. And yeah, that's right, Chinwag. It is all just opinions. and big yourself up as well. Adrian, we've been going for a couple of hours, so I just want you to give the channel another little plug. And then, I mean, if everyone's cool, we'll go on again for a little while longer. I've got a couple more banners, got a couple more talking points. So, Adrian, have a word.
For those of you that just joined us recently, or those that stayed with us for the whole show, thank you for that. Thank everyone in the chat for their comments and questions. Always good. Spurs Diehards TTID. We do go out on Tuesdays at 9 o'clock, on Sundays at 9 o'clock. EMF hosts the Sunday show. I host the Tuesday show, and Drew Zilla hosts this show on Friday. We do have a Facebook group for those of you that like that type of social media. Spurs Diehards TTID space Shit Army. There's 14,500 in there. Only 3,500 are active. We also have a Facebook page, which is under 300 people at the moment. I run the page there because the videos go out on the page. And we've got an XCOM account, a Twitter account, and I've got 3,200 on there, and they are all Spurs because I've only accepted Spurs on there, so I know they're all Spurs. Most of them are verified accounts as well. So we're on there. So you can find us under my name, which is at Adrian Sroka on XCOM, if you want to join up with us over there, but the one thing we'd like you to do is give us your support, and you can support us by actually giving the videos a thumbs up, leaving a comment, and subscribing to the channel, because that'll really help the algorithm, help us to grow. We're doing okay. We'll soon be approaching a year since we were inaugurated. And once again, thank you. Oh, and a very big up to those who watch us on playback, that bother to watch us on playback as well. So with that, back to you, Drew.
All righty. So I'll just bring this banner back up again, because we were talking about it, then we went off, and then a question, then we did another question. So just to try and just sort of bring it back on track, and I've got a couple of discussion points that lead off of the back of this. So I think we're all sort of in agreement. The next couple of games are for the sake of getting as many healthy minutes in people's legs as possible. The final's the most important thing. We obviously touched on Manchester United. They've got some danger men, but there's an argument. We've certainly had their number this season. I feel like it's going to be quite an even game, but I personally think we'll be fairly controlled from us. At least that's my delusional hope. But yeah, so we touched on it earlier. 2 different pathways, depending on if we win the Europa League and qualify. Does Ange get the chance regardless, or has too much happened? Is there a logical break point here? That leads into more Paratici news, and Alex Crooks today reporting that De Zerbi and Marco Silva as potential managerial changes, regardless of whether we win or not. And bear in mind, this is the Alex Crooks that perpetually looks like he's getting out of bed. So I personally don't like the guy. He's a Manchester United supporter through and through. Never has anything nice to say about Tottenham. But then I don't know that there's many of these sports jocks that do. But this guy kind of rubs me the wrong way. So I guess I've got a bit of a biased opinion. So maybe I'll just keep it to myself. But leading on from that, if there's another managerial change or not, looking at the squad, taking into account when it's been rotated for the league games recently, we've been poor. On one question is, how far are we away from being able to compete on multiple fronts? And is that going to tie into, obviously, that journey is shorter or longer, depending on whether we qualify? And then, given how well the team have played in the last 2 rounds, is there an argument that with the squad as a whole, would we have placed better in the league without so many injuries? So does that point to actually the squad's a little bit stronger than I thought it was? Because I've been barking up this squad being rubbish for the last couple of weeks, and I don't know where this strongest squad in a while has come from. So I know there's a couple of points there, and it's a couple of, it's kind of a melting pot, but it does all lead itself into, where is the squad where is the squad going based on the outcome, and how far away from being able to compete are we if the outcome isn't to our liking? Jose, we'll start with you. We'll go over to Steve and up to Adrian. Take it away.
Right. So for me, I've heard the news today on Last Word on Spurs with regards to Paratici, that the negotiations have started and they're speaking to Paratici this weekend. But to tell people that, or they've come out with a caveat to say that they're not that far down the line with the conversations with Paratici. So unlike there's some reports in previously earlier on this week and last week said Paratici's coming back, full stop. No, they're in negotiations to come back. But what's come out and surprised me today is that whoever the source is has come out and said that Langer has a part to play. Now that shocked me because I felt that if Paratici came back, his triangle of him, possibly someone like Gabardini that he had before, and a manager that he brings in would be the triangle. But so they say, they reckon that Langer's got a part to play in talent ID and stuff like that. So that kind of shocked me. Now, if there's any truth in that, what I'm going to say is, there's any truth in that, then why shouldn't then Ange be able to stay? Because Ange is not Paratici's man, but neither is Langer. So if Langer's staying, you know, I don't know what to believe and what not to believe. But with Paratici coming back, if he does come back, he does sign on. I agree with what Steve said earlier, but I've been saying this for months. His ban finishes on the 20th of June. Go get Paratici. And I've been saying it for the last 6 months. Go and get him. Go and get him. Now, if he comes back, sorry, Adrian, if he comes back, then whether we're looking at plan A or plan B, I feel more confident in someone like Paratici to find you the rough diamonds and players that, you know, you won't have to pay so much money for, because in the grand scheme of things, we didn't pay that much for Vicario. We didn't pay that much for Kudu. We didn't pay that much for Bentancur in the grand scheme of things. We've gone out and paid more money under Langer for players than what we paid under Paratici. So whether it's a plan A or a plan B, I think with Paratici at the helm, we stands us in good stead for going down A and B. If you're going to ask me the question of where we are at the moment, pre the final, I said that from last season's summer transfer window, I felt that we were 5 players light in the squad. 5 first team players, I'm going to say, light in the squad. And that's how I felt we were at the end of the transfer window in the summer. There's nothing to change my mind. I still think we're 5 short now. If we weren't going to win the Europa League, we're still 5 players short in my eyes. And that's without sales, because we know that people are going to leave as well. But for me, and I said this, and people might call it ridiculous, but for me, if we're going to win the competition, which I think we will do, and I'm hoping we do, and we want to, then we will be in the Champions League next year. So when you're battling on all 4 fronts, and you include the Champions League as one of them 4 fronts, we're 10 players light. We're another 5 light of the 5 that I said we are already. And that's without making or getting selling players on. Sentimentality needs to be removed.
Correct.
Right? We need to act like the big boys that do play in the Champions League, and we have to cut our cloth accordingly. And that means not having certain players in our squad. So, you know, I look at some of the players and I look that they're giving, what's his name? Ben Davies another year's contract. I said he's been a great servant for Tottenham, but I say Sonny's been a great servant for Tottenham. But if you got to get rid of players, those players have got to go. If they're not good enough, forget the sentimentality. They need to go. And you need to go out and buy players. And I don't know that we're going to go down the route of buying all these young players again, because young players don't come cheap anymore. Young players cost money. Because everyone's fishing in the same pond for these players. So
on your Langer Paratici.
Sorry, real quickly, Adrian. I just want to say big up to Vulnerable Giraffe Gaming. Says, hi guys, United fan here. Well done for getting to the final, and well done to you as well. May the best team win. Absolutely. We are both flimsy sides. For me, it's 50-50. And yeah, I just want a good game, really. Sorry. Back to you, Adrian. I just wanted to make sure we
come back on Jose's point and then get him to answer it. The speculation today, when I looked through a couple of posts, I mean, might not be able to read anything into it at all, but was that Paratici would come in as a technical director and he would do what he did before for us. Whereas if Langer's kept, he'll be kept to hunt out young players.
Is that So does that mean that we're bringing in Gabardini back then? Because he worked best with Gabardini, and Gabardini does the same job as Langer. And that's why
Gabardini currently is out of work.
It's all speculation. Yeah. Like you said, if they just spoke to Paratici, he might decide no.
I would think that once Paratici hits the ground running on July 1st, that Gabardini would be there. I don't think that I think with everything that's happened, when you look at the last 3 windows under Lang. And even in some of the moves that he made with younger players, but also some of the senior players, it just really has not been good enough. That being said, though, you're absolutely right. You would probably assume that Paratici is going to want to have his people in place so he can hit the ground running when it just comes to scouting, right? Let me
just stop you there, Steve. Just because if it was Paratici and Gabardini last time, Paratici, Gabardini, and Greta Steinson, right? If Langer has been told that he can stay and he is going to be talent ID, then is he not, in essence, what Gabardini was in the previous iteration of this, in that he would then just report to Paratici with potential talent ID, right?
Is Johan Lang going to want to be in that role where he's got to report to Paratici? Is he willing to put his ego aside in order to make that work, just to keep it?
Is he not reporting to Munn now? And does Paratici not just replace Munn? So would it not just be the same thing? He's got to report to somebody, right?
Yeah, because when Paratici was at Tottenham as a full-time employee, he was a director on the board.
Director of football, right?
He was a director. Yeah, he was one of the directors. He was the only footballing person on the directorship. All the other directors were all the spreadsheet merchants. He was the only football directorship, so to speak. Right. Now, on that board at the moment, when Paratici left, Scott Munn came in, and Scott Munn went onto the board. So it could well be, who knows? It could well be that Paratici comes back as a director on the directorship, and that Scott Munn is the one that then goes. But I would have thought.
I mean, that's already been confirmed, right? That's already been clarified that Munn is leaving at the end of the season.
Is that definite?
It's not. That's been definite. I'm pretty sure that's a doubt. I mean,
that's 100% been confirmed.
Yeah. So that's already been confirmed. So now basically they're speaking to Paratici because they need a Munn replacement. So they're trying to get him back in the door. So my question, I'm thinking really, because from that position up, it's Daniel Levy in the board. I'm interested in that position down. Like where
you've got two other people to consider, because you've got Rob McKenzie, who's chief scout,
right,
and then you got Max Leggett, who we got off of Bayern Munich, and he's the first team scout. So you've got.
So let me ask you this, Adrian. In this previous, and I'm sorry, I'm talking over people. I'm just trying to get a picture or an idea. So in the previous iteration of what this was, you had Levy, who was between. Was it Levy then Paratici, or was it one of those people that you just mentioned between those two? Or where do they fit in?
It would have been Paratici.
So you got Levy, Paratici, on the board. Then Rob Birch.
Rob McKenzie's the chief scout,
right.
But Max Leggett, he's the first team scout.
Where would Greta Steinson have fitted into that?
Gabardini was the one. Gabardini reported straight into Paratici. Gabardini was the footballing one that went straight into, and Steiden, I think, was. So if you're looking at the hierarchy, Paratici.
So because I thought it was Levy, Paratici, Gabbanini, Steinson.
Yeah, that's right. Steinson.
Golding's
so
still
now,
there as well. I think
so now you're
Golding's
trying to do a new updated version of that, because if you can't, let's say you can't get rid of Langer. Now you're trying to fit pieces in around people, right? So now you're going to have Levy. You're back to Paratici again. Maybe Paratici now works with Langer, who's below him, and now you're then Ange or whoever the manager is below them.
Scouts and whatever, because they'll have a say. And then scouts like the same transfers.
Exactly.
So that would be it. That would be it. And you'd go down to the 2 scouts and the coach, whoever's coach, whether it's Ange or whatever. It's never people that think like it's never a single decision when a transfer is agreed. Never. New managers may come in and want a specific player, and the club may go for him or not, according to if they can afford him. But it's always done virtually by consensus. Because if you're doing all this data analysis, right, you'll make a list of players in that data, and you haven't even seen them yet, unless you've watched them on telly and you actually know they're good. And these coaches and even managers, they ain't got time to go and look and scout players. They just don't have time to do it. So you can watch games, get clips, get scouting reports, and that's why you use agencies to go and get the data off the agencies and pay for that. Like that agent, you get the data, then you might look at the player and videos. Okay, looks good on the video. Now you send your scouts out. How many times do you hear we say that Spurs scouts were at the game? I don't know if it's Max Leggett or Rob McKenzie at the game, though. Maybe they sent a different team of footballing scouts out. They may be freelance. Who knows? We don't know. I think sometimes it is.
Yeah. Well, just to come back, because I'm conscious of wanting to sort of keep on at least one or two sort of discussion points. So, obviously the 2 pathways you're touching on, the scouts there and potential players and in and outs. Obviously, there's going to be a vast difference in the sort of players we can attract, depending on whether this should be a thing or not necessarily. But and I say that because I'm aware that Romero joined when we didn't have any Europe, but would a Romero now, which is kind of what we need, right? We need a couple of healthy, been there and done it with some European football in their legs. So with that being said, would a Romero now, as opposed to Romero then, come to a Tottenham now, as opposed to a Tottenham then? So that's just something, something to consider, because the class, the quality of player is going to come into play. The amount that we're going to be able to pay and pay them is going to come into play. So based on the back of that and the quality of the...
I don't know, did you hear what I said though, Drew, when you asked the question?
Sorry, go on.
I said that Paratici, as Steve alluded to earlier, I said, sorry, because you stepped away when you asked the question.
Yeah, sorry.
Paratici is the fundamental in all this to get him back into the club, because regardless whether we're following plan A or plan B, Paratici is the best person for it, because even if you have to go down plan B, Paratici will find gems, because he did this before where we didn't pay that much for Vicario, we didn't pay that much for Kulusevski, we didn't pay that much for Bentancur. So regardless of what it is, the most important piece in this cog for us, take the results out of the way at the moment, the most important piece is Paratici, because whether plan we have to follow, I feel more comfortable in Paratici being able to go down plan A or plan B, either one, and getting us a better caliber of player for a decent price to help us whichever plan that we have to go down. Okay. And that's what I said. That was my answer.
Gotcha. Earlier. Yeah. So I did have you in my ear, but I had something that I didn't realize I had to do. Well, Steve, let me come on to you, because am I guilty? And Johnny's pointed this out. Big up, Johnny. Am I guilty for forgetting about Vinay Venkatesham?
Were you wrong? Were you wrong to forget about him?
I mean, I don't know. I did forget about him because I was going from Daniel Levy straight to Paratici, and I think probably Vinay is maybe going to be somewhere in between that.
I would assume he's the CEO. He's going to be the big cheese man, the big man upstairs. He's going to be the Kappa di Capi man, the boss of all bosses. But that being said, my question is what's his role? Right? Is his role strictly going to be on the business side, if it comes to sponsorships, these type of things, where he's going to make sure that this club is double down on the revenue streams and also making sure they unearth some new revenue streams, these type of things. Is that his role, or is his role going to be more tailored and geared to the football side of things? And if that being said, if that's the case, how involved is he actually going to be? The last thing this club needs moving forward is having too many hands in the jar, right? One of the things that I like about the addition of Paratici is I think he's really the only guy who has the gravitas to say, hey, listen, man, you hired me to do my job. Let me do my job and don't interfere. And the question, to me, and that's the biggest question of all, because if he's on the football side, then you're gonna have situations in the summer transfer window when we're trying to get players, and you're gonna have guys stepping in saying, whoa, that's just entirely way too much money. Do you know who we are? We're Tottenham Hotspur. We're not. We're not. What are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, we can't have that type of interference. If Vinny is, if Paratici is reporting to Vinny, pertaining to how much money is spent within the confines of the budget, or different ways that we can add to the transfer budget, those type of things. Okay, that's fine, whatever. But that being said, it's like I don't know specifically what his role is.
Well, Lord Rodney Trotter says basically give Paratici more money to spend from Levy. That's Vinny's job. Yeah. So I mean, what? And Lord Trotter, you can give me an answer to this in the chat. Obviously, everyone's been screaming for ages for just Levy to just take his hands off the wheel, and I think there was a sense that maybe he started to, and then things didn't go quite right. He spent more money than he wanted to on a certain couple of players that we all know about. He had to fire a manager that we didn't want him to, that we all kind of know about. And just as he was taking his hands off, I feel like he had to put them back on it again and kind of recorrect. And then when he hired Paratici, I think he was doing the same thing again. And then Paratici got done for his dealings. And I think he put his hands back on the wheel and had to readjust. So is there a hope, or is there maybe even a possibility, or am I in complete la-la land, that Levy might be on the verge of handing over the keys and saying, look, here's X amount of money that you're allowed to play with within the confines, the parameters of what we got, and you guys have to make it work? Or is he still going to be hovering with his hands over the wheel, being ready to recorrect at any given moment? Like, is he just always going to be the overlord? We're never, like, he's like the you know how you have the learner driver cars? I don't know if they're still around, but they've basically got 2 wheels and 2 sets of pedals. And you've got to give the kid, you got to give the kid the control, but you're sitting there ready to take over at any second. Is this just what it's going to be like? Adrian, we'll start with you and we'll go around the other way.
The only way that happens is that at the end of each financial year, when they do the numbers, Levy says, right, you've got this much to spend, if that's the case, and what money you bring in from player sales. And that's it. What other difference is there? If Levy's involved, it's the same amount of money and money for player sales. But I think he might sign off the deals, Levy, but I think he's better off letting others do the negotiations. And I think that, I think we won't have all this doom and gloom about we've got no money, which we're getting all these stories now. The season's coming to the end, right? All this doom and gloom about no money. I'm pretty sure that Richarlison and Basuma will be sold, as will Solomon. That'll bring in a reasonable amount of money. And possibly Romero might stay if we win the Europa League. If not, we're going to bring in even lots more money. And we're talking, at least 120, 130 mil. And then, the reason with my doubts with Romero slightly is we're talking the money that Atletico Madrid haven't got. Do PSG need a centre-back? Do Barcelona need a centre-back? If Bayern Munich want a centre-back, they're going to get Jonathan Tah for nothing, right, or something like that. I mean, and this is it. And I don't think there's many teams out there because Europe is still deflated. The market's still deflated in Europe. I still don't see many teams out there that can afford Romero. And if they can't...
Adrian, let me just stop you there for a sec, because I think we're getting a little bit off topic, because we can talk about transfers and we can talk about ins and outs and we can talk about generation of money, but I'm talking about just the the overriding structure of the club and who will ultimately have the power to make those decisions. Because regardless of whether it's the confines of a Champions League budget or a Europa League budget, or, you know, I guess it would be Champions League or bust, right? Within the two confines of those, is Levy going to relinquish power of that budget? And I guess how the kids say, let Vinny and Paratici cook, or are we still going to be under his constraints? And is there still going to be this, well, Paratici wants to go and do this, Vinny wants to go and do that, but ultimately they're still going to have to walk down the corridor of power and say to Levy, here you go, we want to do this. And are they going to have to then wait for him to decide for 3 or 4 weeks whether he's going to let them do that? Or is he going to decide, oh, well, no, I want to get on the bus with you. I want to get on the plane with you. What, are you going to Germany to discuss? Oh, no, I want to go and do that. Like, is he, I guess my question is, does anyone see any reason that he might just hand over the keys and step away? Or is he always going to be the third wheel of the day?
I'm going to have to cut and run, so I'm going to give it a quick answer before I go. Right, guys.
Yeah, please do.
For me, all I'm going to say to you guys is that with when Paratici was last here, did you ever hear of Daniel Levy meddling in any of the deals Paratici was doing?
Not really, and that's why I was asking the question. Right.
So therefore,
other than Jed Spence,
but Paratici wasn't involved in that. That was a club signing. Conte told us that. That was club signing.
But they were still both at the club, right? Which is why I bring it up.
Yeah, but Paratici didn't have nothing to do with that deal. It was all Daniel Levy, the Jed Spence deal. So
he must have been okay with it, though, right? Sorry to keep talking, but you must have been. I'm just trying to get an idea of the.
Paratici didn't get involved in it. It was a project that Daniel Levy had, and he wanted to go down that route. Paratici had no say in it.
And he didn't care one way or the other.
No, he didn't care because it's not disturbing what Paratici wanted to do. So I'm just going by on memory. On memory now. 2 years ago, or just over 2 years ago, I don't recall Daniel Levy ever meddling. I don't ever recall hearing a story or a murmur at all that Daniel Levy had to be called in from his yacht wherever in the world to come and deal with a deal because someone couldn't get it over the line, like we've heard lately with Langer on a few 2 to 3 occasions. We've heard that Daniel Levy's had to step in. Never heard once any rumours, any scaremongering about anything going on with Paratici.
Yeah, very good point.
So therefore, I believe the only person that I believe, and I said this for a long time, the only person that I believe that had a hold over Daniel Levy out of all the people that we've had at the club, footballing people, has been Paratici. He listened to Paratici. Whatever Paratici did, Paratici went and done. And Levy never meddled, never got involved. What we need is, if Levy's going to still be the owner and Enoch is still going to be the owners of the club going forward, we need more of that. Don't meddle in the football. Leave it to those that know. And that's what I believe will happen with Paratici, even second time round. Boys, I've got to shoot. It's been a pleasure being on with you guys.
All right, mate. Everyone, you can find El Cockerel. Yeah, you can find Jose here. Peace out, my friend.
I'll keep smashing the likes for Drew, for Adrian, and for Steve. God bless everyone.
Mate.
Have a lovely weekend.
See you again, man.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
It depends what Vinay Venkatesham is brought in to do, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, what did he do at Arsenal? Wasn't he responsible for getting Eddie at the club? Was it? Yeah. Was he or not? I mean, I
believe so. I believe he was part instrumental. I don't know if instrumental is the right word, but I have heard that in part he was a big reason that they got him. And maybe there's a say. Maybe I'm just interested in. I think they're trying to sort of emulate that pyramid.
True. Right? Yeah. But can't both be true? Right, because and I said that earlier that Paratici does have the gravitas because he was able to work with inside his budget, budget constraints to be able to get deals across the line, and it didn't necessarily stretch their budget. But that being said, Daniel Levy's ego is to a point where he can't not have control over certain things. There are still good there, and he's even admitted himself that he gets a rush. Negotiating contracts and things like that. He likes to be involved with certain things, and so that's why I firmly believe that both are probably going to be true. There's still going to be a certain level of control that Daniel Levy is going to want to have, and he's never going to relinquish that. It's just in his DNA. That's just what he is. That's who he is. And that's what he wants to be. But that being said, when it comes to Paratici, Jose was right. I mean, he's going to be able to execute it. He's going to be able to execute his plan without interference from Levy, depending on the players, depending on the type of players he's trying to bring in. The question is, I have for you is like, if Tottenham are at, let's just say this, right? Let's just say this upcoming summer transfer window that they could potentially be in for an 80+ million pound player. I'll just throw out a name. I don't think it's going to happen, but let's just say that Nico Williams wants to come to Tottenham, but it's going to cost $100 million transfer fee, and he's going to have to break the 200,000 a week barrier. But he wants to come, and we can get him. And it's not going to sink the transfer budget, but it's going to be a huge buy. Does Paratici have the weight to tell Daniel Levy like this is actually a good thing? And it's not going to sink us. Is that going to be something that Daniel Levy himself is going to want to negotiate, or is he going to turn around and say, I don't think so. That's a little too pricey.
Well, if we go on past form, we would say no, wouldn't we? But this is the thing about this club. Everything's about as transparent as mud. I mean, we don't know because we don't know what's going to happen. We're going to have
I'm just saying, like, because if he has the gravitas to do that and tell Daniel Levy, like, listen, man, trust me, I know what I'm doing. Does he have carte blanche to do that?
Well, that's the $64 million question. I mean, big up to Sean Butler on Spurs Talk Show and Sean Butler TV. He's said that, and I think this is based on. I don't want to misquote him. I think this is obviously based on getting into the Champions League, that fork in the road as opposed to the other. That we will likely see a transfer record broken for Tottenham, and we will see a highest earner record for Tottenham within the next couple of seasons. And based on the fact that I think probably if you're going to make that jump up to that level, you have to, because you're in a precarious position whereby if you qualify for the Champions League and then you have a bad season next year, and the same situation happens, you're not winning the Champions League to get yourself out of jail to get back into the Champions League. Right. Like, that's not how this is going to work again. Like, we're in a very, very odd situation, and the same with Manchester United. It's crazy how this has worked out, that this is some serious make or break stuff. Like, this is almost like snakes and ladders or shoots and ladders. This is your back to square one, or you'll go to jail for a set period of time while everyone else goes off and makes their money and buys a few more houses and gets a few more hotels. And then by the time you get out of jail and you're bopping along the street, all of a sudden it's costing you more money just to stop. It's not even costing you money it's costing you more money. It's crazy. So basically the bottom line is, go on, Stu.
I was going to say, well, that's the hire. That's what you do when you hire a guy like Paratici, right? There's an old saying: it's either you adapt or you die. You fall by the wayside, right? Because every single year the cost of living the cost of winning continues to rise, right? And you have to have a guy who is up with the trends, who understands the year by year discrepancies in which you have to build a team, right? That's Paratici. Okay, that's great. But that being said, it's like, how do you break a vicious circle that is Tottenham Hotspur that has been being by the wayside? How do you break that cycle?
Based on this potential model, can we not have
They're
a
more
healthy?
than willing to be that.
Yeah, well, can we not have a healthy? Can we not have a healthy blend of both, right? Because if you do look at Paratici and you look at who he did bring in, and I'm talking like elder statesmen or guys that were going to potentially be in the first team straight away. It was Kulusevski, your guy, and it was Bentancur, right? And forgive me if I'm wrong, but they're not on ludicrous amounts of money.
Correct.
So if you incorporate what Paratici is able to do in the market with guys that are maybe already there but aren't in the highest echelons of world football in terms of world class. And then, and then you can get your, Langer or whoever it may be, that's your talent scout, or your scouts plus your talent search. Can you not get him then to blend that with what Paratici's bringing in? And then you don't necessarily, while I understand that you have to pay for class, I think, just to refer back to the get out of jail free card, if we do qualify for the Champions League this time round, I think we need to be really, really clever in that we need to obviously do some sort of job in the Champions League. Like, I don't want to be embarrassed, but our bread and butter, if we want to be the club we want to be, has to be top 6, top 4, to be able to qualify for Champions League again, or at the very least some sort of Europe, so that we're not doing this up and down, up and down. Like, the step has to be gradual to be able to reach the summit. If you try and run to the top, you're going to fall down. So
I think we're pretty close. I think we're pretty close with the squad that we have. Believe it or not, when I came into this summer, even with the disappointing summer transfer window, I thought we were either going to finish anywhere between 5th and 8th. If everything broke right, potentially 5th, but I thought we were going to be in that 6 to 8 type of range, because our depth on this team was absolutely atrocious. Right, everything was with an asterisk for me. Like, everything had to break right, because I mean, when you look at this team on paper, we probably have one of the best back fives in the Premier League. If everything breaks right and everybody comes good, that's a strong back five. Goalkeeper plus that back line. And then you think of Betancourt, Kulusevski, Madison. That's an unbelievable midfield three. And then you had some nice depth behind it with Sarr and Bergvall as soon as he came up to speed, and potentially Archie Gray. And now you're going to be adding Johnny Cardoso to that coming off season as well too, which is going to strengthen a little bit at that 6. But that being said, where I looked at this team and I was like, well, this is the separation of haves and have not, is the fact that our attacking three, our regular attacking three, is just not good enough. It's really not to sustain an entire Premier League season. It's just really not. And when you looked at some of these injuries, and then you're looking at our wingers being 19, asking them to continuously produce that type of goal involvement. And to carry this team, it's just not good enough, right? You can understand why Ange has had to be a lot more pragmatic as the season has progressed, especially in the last 2 months, because he can't trust his wingers to do the job that he needs. And then you look at Dom Solanke, who really, until really like the last month before he's caught in fire, he was hurt there for a little bit, but his goal contributions weren't there as well too. So the way that I looked at this team was everything had to break right for this team to be at that position. But that being said, it's like it's not going to take this team to move mountains in order to get this team better, to put themselves in a position where they can continue it. Now, there's going to have to be investment, but as far as I'm concerned, it's like really like what Jose was saying, like 5 positions across the attacking three, and then maybe a left back and another left center back, just to add some depth to that back line. But for the most part, you have to, like, when you look at Brendan Johnson, you look at Odebear, you look at Yang Min Hook, and some of these young guys that are in the attacking three, those are some solid depth pieces. And if we get Matisse Tell back at the right price, that's going to be a nice little depth piece. But that being said, if you actually invest in that attacking three on both sides, on both wings, and another striker, and maybe add some depth to that back line, that right there is a team that's going to finish 6 or better, 100%. That's like, but it also, you have to make sure that Betancourt signs an extension. You keep Romero along with that center back pairing, because if you get rid of Romero and Betancourt, it's like, oh boy.
Yeah. Well, Adrian, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I've said all along. I mean, you with this to improve this squad, you got to think, how many players are we going to get in? Now, I can see us buying 3. Any over that, they've got to be loans or loans to buy. I just don't see it all happening in the summer window, which starts June the 1st, isn't it? I don't see it all happening. We know we need a left back. I know Spencer's played well there, but we still need a left back, right? We know we need a good number 9. And, we need number 6. The money for players doesn't bother me. Wages, that's something they sort out with the player. If they're not, if they come, it's just the quality of the player for me. And who do you think we should be going for? The likes of Nico Williams wouldn't come to Spurs anyway.
Right. I know that.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just an example, and Gittins as well. So if you're talking about with us, or even with the Europa League football, and where are all these big name players that you want to bite your hand off to sign now that are available? And that's the only thing, isn't it? Availability. They're just not available. We could end up with Dilat from Ipswich. We could end up even with Jonathan David or Angel Gomez, right? We'll probably end up with Johnny Cardoso. I think that'll be a strong one because it's virtually a done deal on the buyout clause, £21 million.
Well, I tell you, we're going for 2 hours 45 or 2 hours 40 minutes. So we'll do the last 20 minutes. We'll do transfer. This says transfer news, but we'll do just transfers in general, and who you think like potentials are. So you're touching on the Williams. You don't think that's doable. You think that's a step too far for us at the moment.
Well, and then again, young Odegaard had exactly the same stats as Nico Williams when he was at Burnley. I mean, you think you take Nico Williams first because since then Nico Williams gone and won things with Spain, right? Yeah. So I don't see us going for another winger. Well, this is the thing we don't know. We can say we need another winger, but then you've got to get rid of one. We've got about 7. You've got Mikey Moore. You've got Son for next year anyway. You've got Johnson. You've got Odegaard. That's 4. Who am I missing? I mean, you got Tell 5.
Maybe
Yenmin Hook 6. Solomon 7.
No, he's gone. He's gone though. Solomon's going to go.
So you got 6 for 4, and you need 4, and you've got to bring one in. Who you're selling? Yenmin Hook's been brought in for the future. I don't think Odegaard's going. He's on a contract. Loves it at the club, right? Tell we may not bring him in. If we didn't, we don't. I mean, do you not think Hughes probably one for the future, and you would send him probably out on loan again and still look to need to bring somebody in, right? We'll get another loan. Sure. So we need a number 9. Now you take your pick. If you're looking at the Premier League and you're looking at going for Acuna or Rory Delap, I mean, at least they played in the Premier League. If you're going abroad, where are the number 9s abroad? Where are they? And then we get linked with strange name players now, which no one's heard of. So
in a hype says Belgium's good for a winger.
Yeah, Scott Olsen and players like that. Yeah. I mean,
and then Mr. M points out the likes of NG and Nkudu. So do you know what I mean? There's good and bad out there.
Yeah. And like, I think we'll get Cardoso. I think it's probably the one cert I think we're getting, right? Cardoso.
Yeah, I expect that to happen.
Left back.
Is that? Let me ask you: is the Cardoso going to be in replacement of either a Bentancur or Basuma, or is he going to come in and join them?
That's probably going to
go 8 midfielders. Like I say, 22 players, 2 in each position. The 23rd player is your goalkeeper. Then you've got 2 extra squad members to add. They could both be midfielders. I wouldn't be against that because like midfield's the toughest area of the pitch. It's where you pick up more injuries and more yellow cards. So I wouldn't be against them 2 extra players being there. I mean, because we got.
Well, what alarms me is the fact that Bentancur has yet to extend his contract, and that's I don't know if that's necessarily a sign of bad things to come, because I also believe that Basuma is going to leave the club as well too, which basically leaves your 6s as Archie Gray, Lucas Bergvall, and Johnny Cardoso, those 3 battling out for the starting position. And the question is like, who do you trust at that point? You think it's one of those arguments that it's just the cup run has just been more important than a signature? That's good. That's a great question. The question is whether Champions League is going to be good enough to entice Bentancur to come back. They don't want to. Tottenham does not want to let Bentancur leave. So I think a lot of this also.
And he's 28 now as well, so he might be settled and not want to move again. Although Atletico Madrid are interested. Look, they're interested in him. They're interested in Romero.
Yeah,
Where's
they want to pull
money?
off that
They haven't
double.
got the money. They got their fingers burnt when they built João Felix for like 100-odd million or whatever it was.
Yeah, they're gonna have to get creative to free up that money, but they want to pull off that double. And a part of that, I was just reading a couple days ago. A part of any potential deal with Christian Romero is going to involve Conor Gallagher coming back this way. And I'm kind of like, yeah, that's and Spurs. It's rumored that Spurs might be interested in that. I'm like, dude, come on, man.
Never gonna happen.
But ain't happening if Angie's going. See, this is the other thing which complicates the whole transfer window. If we don't know if Angie's going to be our manager for next season, then it's like, well, who are we going to bring in?
Spud says here, without Europe, we could do with a smaller squad. Some outgoings won't need replacing, and then if we get into Champions League, whole different story. Big up, Spud.
And if you haven't got, I mean, we know we could go and get Glimt for 30-40 million, right? Right, and then you get a left back. Tyreek Mitchell's in his last year at Palace. Not sure if he's that good though. To be honest with you, you're looking at a left back now. If you've got Cardoso in, so it wouldn't take a fortune to fill the spaces we've got.
Correct.
And it's not like those players have. Go on.
And you can utilize the free market as well too. There's some interesting names that are going to be available on a free. That's going to clear up stuff.
Which clubs want to sell because they're in the last year of their contract in the summer. Like we've got Basuma's in his last year. I think Bentancur is as well. I'm not sure. I'll have to check that one.
I do.
Isn't we? Aren't we in danger, right? Because I appreciate the sentiment. I see where we're going with it. I understand the position that the club are in. But when you put out, and to be fair, I'm kind of a fan of Tyreek Mitchell. I don't have a problem with him, especially as like a rotation sort of player to Udogie.
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't mind it, but I genuinely feel like there's I don't know if it's and I don't want to be unfair. I don't want to be unfair, and I'm never trying to call people out. But I think there's certainly a level of player that a certain percentage of the fan base aren't happy with, and I feel like if we went down the road of signing the likes of a Tyreek Mitchell, there'd be a percentage that would call out the club and say, "Oh, look at where we're aiming. We couldn't go out and get X player. We've gone and got the free, the free agent." And at that point, I mean, I'm just asking the question: do we not run the risk? Because I see the point. Are we not running the risk of doing the same old thing again? Like, I know it's one thing to be clever and look for people.
Yeah, the media put out so much BS during the transfer window, and the media, any sensible person in the media, or even us. We know we need a left back, a striker, and a 6. Why we don't hear nothing from the media about left backs? We've wanted one since last summer, right? I mean, I wouldn't mind a David Hankar fight.
Yeah, but I'm Adrian. Adrian, you kind of missed the point. Transfer rumors are one thing, but are we not? Like, my point was, are we? If by targeting, regardless of whether the media are trying to sell us a player or not, whether the media are trying to convince another team that we're trying to buy and sell X, Y, or Z, we know we need a left back. By targeting Tyreek Mitchell, are we not potentially running the risk of looking at a player that is below the standard of what we really need to A, fill in for Udogie, and B, push Udogie to become a better player?
Yeah, I mean, you could go to Chelsea for one. No, but the point is, we should have lists of these players already, shouldn't we? I mean, ignoring the media, probably. But mine wasn't a good analogy, actually. I mean, because their recruitment team, what are they doing from summer around to the transfer window? They should be looking where we're weak in the squad. They should compile in lists, a bit like they used to say. Paratici would have 5 players for each position. Remember? So this is what we should have at this club. We should have a list of possible strikers, a list of possible left backs, a list number 6.
How many?
I'm sure we do, right? I'm sure we do. But my question was, is the quality enough, Steve?
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? How many times this year have we heard from the fan base saying that our squad players aren't good enough? Why can't we get experienced Premier League, Premier League players to come in and fill some of these spots? And that's exactly what Tyreek Mitchell is. You can't argue with it, right? He's been around and he fills an absolute void. That's going to take some pressure off at Destiny Udogi's, and it doesn't have to play every goddamn week. But the other thing is he's got Premier League experience, which is exactly what you want from your backup left back. Yeah, I would love to have Anthony Robinson. I would love to have him, Fulham's left back, but he's going to cost you $65 million in the transfer on the transfer market, if not more, and you're going to be paying him £150 a week, $150,000 a week, and it's just not feasible because that's starting money. And now you're putting yourself in a situation where now you have two starting left backs that are going to be on high wages, where some of that money could go to different positions. And the reality is you have to utilize the free market as well too, because at that you have to have some players come in that are not going to that is not going to stretch your transfer budget. It's like those are the type, like Tyreek Mitchell are the type of players that you want to bring into this club. Specifically because A, they're cost effective, but also B, they also have tons of Premier League experience, and they're also leaders as well too.
If you want to, sorry, just Adrian, just quickly before you come in, and I know, and Lord Rodney has mentioned Tyreek Mitchell being homegrown, and I guess it's a benefit. Yeah. I don't know if it's as huge of a benefit as it is now, because I think we've got a couple of players coming through that make up homegrown numbers. Although I could be wrong, and I'm happy to be corrected. But let me just throw a name out here for you, because for every Tyreek Mitchell, I'm sure it's possible to unearth a Milos Kerkez somewhere, right? And he's a player that I think if you're Liverpool, even Manchester United apparently have been sniffing around him. If you were to say to Bournemouth that you were going to drop, 40, 50 mil, based on the fact that you're Tottenham and you can amortize this stuff and you can do 50 million over a 5-year contract, would you not, if you're genuinely trying to become a little bit better, would you not weigh up the pros and cons of that and say, hang on, over the course of what we give Tyreek Mitchell over the course of 2 or 3 years or 4 years, plus the fact that we've got to give him money for a signing on fee, do you not just look at that and then look at Kerkez and go, do you know what? If we really, really want to push ourselves on, if we really want Udogie to become a better player, do we not put a Kerkez up his arse and say, you two fight it out for the right left back position for the next? Do you know? I'm just, as I say, am I just too? Is it too delusional of me to think that Tottenham can go and do that?
Because that's exactly what I want at the right wing for Brennan Johnson. Because clearly at that position, Brennan Johnson's have plateaued, and the only thing that's going to jumpstart it again is actually having 100% competition at that point. Him actually dealing with pressure of having to earn his weekly starting spot. So it actually does apply here as well too.
What is the strategy though? Because if you could sell Romero, grab what money you got for him, 60, 70 million, and if you sold him, right, I want him to stay. If you sold him, you might use that money elsewhere and not replace him, because you've got Dragerson, Danso, VDV Davis. That's 4 centre-backs. And then you've got Vuskovic coming in. You've got Dorrington. You've got Phillips. Right? No, so you've got 4 centre-backs that can play in the Premier League. I mean, Davis.
4 centre-backs that are 4, 5, 6 years away from being anywhere near Romero's quality, if they ever get to be Romero's quality.
Danso hasn't shown he can play week to week in the Premier League. I'm sorry. Danso's sample size is so small. And while he does look decent, there's a quality discrepancy, because when Romero came back from injury without even playing, he was put right back into the starting 11 without any question, because the quality is just so vastly different.
Oh, I'm not doubting Romero's quality, and yet half our fan base don't like him. I said he's the best defender by a light year.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Podcasts.
I mean, for me, the money that they're saying that Romero's going to get, I mean, regardless of what we think he's worth, he's only got 2 years left on his contract, and people are going to try and lowball us. And we're only, the likes of Atletico Madrid aren't going to get any more than about 60, 70 million out of their pocket. I just don't see it. And honestly, with that, I feel like you just got to be, as I say, I keep harping back on about it, and I apologize, but if we want to be the club that we want to be and all that jazz. You've got to do these clever things like, City and Chelsea do, where instead of selling your best player to get 60 or 70 million, you sell 2 or 3 fringe players that aren't ever really going to make it. And you make the 60 or 70 million up that way.
Right.
And then you invest in that. Do you know what I mean? And then you add to that and you go and get 2 50 million pound players as opposed to having 4 25 million pound players. And that's how you
got to take the emotion out of it. You got to take the romance out of it too. Guys like Josh Keeley, guys like Jamie Donnelly, guys like Will Lancashire, who I like. But that being said, that's why they're there. That's why you have them. Because if you can get 20 mil for each of those players or something close to it, that's going to allow you to have some ambition to go actually and go replace Sonny on the left wing with a new face of the club.
Yeah. What's wrong with making him run down his contract if he goes? But look, the price for paying up wages, they're amortized from the time you bring that player into your club.
Me personally, with a guy like Romero, I take the risk.
Which I don't think players like doing because they've got all these bonuses written into their contracts if they behave and don't mouth off, blah, and all that. I mean, you could keep him for 2 years. You wouldn't know where this club was in 2 years' time.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You take the chance. You take the chance and you let it ride down. Because in 2 years, you have 2 years to show ambition.
Levy shouldn't sell him. If that next year, all of a sudden his value would drop. But hang about, he's a year older next year. And Atletico Madrid might have gone out and got themselves another defender by then. Or they might have been forced to get another one in. So then you're in a situation where, hang about, Romero, you want to sign your final contract for another 5 years or something, and you keep him because he's going to play into his 30s, right? So you struggle. I don't think there's a better pass.
Well, there's always that deal out there that benefits both parties as well. Like just because he's got 2 years on, they could go and sit down and he'll go, all right, well, I'll tell you what, I'll sign for another 5 years. I'll put, you give me another 50 grand a week, but we're going to put a stipulation in here that if we don't reach X, Y, or Z, like if we're not at least top 6, if Atletico or Real Madrid come and calling next couple of years, there's a stipulation in my contract that guarantees.
I'm sure you could go to the player and say, look, we're not going to break our pay structure. We'll pay you the max if he's not on it, right?
Absolutely.
But when you sign that contract, we'll give you the bonuses in it, or we'll give you a £5 million signing on fee. Yeah. Which ways you spread over a year? There must be ways to.
There's lots of ways of doing it, Adrian. Lots of ways.
And I would like to think that being in the Champions League next year smooths a lot of things over for both Betancourt and Romero. But that being said, it's like one of the things that I do know about professional footballers, and I know a lot of them, they always use the term respect. I just want to be respected for the quality that I bring to the team. What does that mean? What does respect mean? Well, it means money. These guys want to be paid. And when you look at a dude like Romero, who is out 26, 27 now, he's got one good contract left, and he wants to maximize that money throughout the length of that contract. And that's what that respect means. And so if you're Paratici coming in, you sit down with them and just say, hey, man, I wasn't able to finish what I started. That's why I'm back here. But we also need you to be here. So if it means money, if it means that you have to make $200K a week, fair enough. Let's do it because it's going to be mutually beneficial. You can add out clauses to contracts. You can have release clauses added to contracts. So if a team like Barcelona, Real Madrid, or whatever comes knocking, they're gonna have to pay. They're gonna have to pay a premium to get you, but. That's what that's.
Well, it might even not necessarily be the premium. Like you've in terms of the player, you do have somewhat. It's even with 2 years on your contract, you say, all right, well, I'll sign this contract that you've got in front of me, but you're going to let me go and it's going to be for X amount. And if you can't agree that, then I'm not going to sign the contract. And, we'll have another 2 years and that'll be cool. And I'll go on a free. But guys, we have been going for 3 hours. And unfortunately, as much as I'd love to carry on for a little longer, I do have a couple of places I need to be. We didn't even touch on really the Crystal Palace preview or anything like that. We'll just really, really quickly. What's your score prediction, Adrian?
2-0 Spurs.
2-0 Spurs. And for you, Steve?
I think it's going to be just one of these crazy type of things where it's going to be back and forth goals. Because I think we're going to see quite a rotated back line for Spurs this upcoming weekend. So I'm going to say 3-2 Spurs.
All right, fair play.
Only 11 changes, yeah, for this game.
Only 11 or 12, yeah. I think maybe there'll be more changes than there will be goals. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Just want a big shout out to the 94 of you still watching across all the platforms. Big up to everybody in the chat that's been taking part. Lord Rodney Trotter, you've been awesome, just giving shout outs and just going through getting information. I wish I could have shouted out some more of your information. We get caught up in these conversations and then all of a sudden we're 30 comments deep. So just want to say a big thank you to you. Big thank you to Inner Hype, to Paul Brown. Who else we got here? Mr. M, who popped in and said hello. B Knight, Chinwag Spurs, Johnny, Nita that was in here earlier. I want to thank Ian that came in earlier. I want to thank Alan who was part of the stream earlier. Paul Brown, I think I said you already. David Clark. Anybody I've missed, I really appreciate you. I apologize. Steve, what have you got coming up on your channel for the weekend?
Well, tomorrow morning we have our morning Spurs show that we do every Saturday morning. I believe, Adrian, you're on it tomorrow. Drew, you're more than welcome to show up, and I think James is going to be on that one as well too. And then, of course, tomorrow night we have our MLS live stream for all those UK people that hey man, the English Premier League ain't the only league in the world that produces excellent soccer. And of course, tomorrow night it's Columbus. It's 1 versus 2 in the Eastern Conference as Columbus goes to Philadelphia to take on the Union. So that's going to be at 7:30 tomorrow night Eastern time, US time, which I believe is 12:30 UK time. So if anybody that wants to watch good soccer, stateside footy is where you want to be. And of course, on Sunday we have the pre-match. We have the pre-match for Crystal Palace. We have the watch along, and of course we have the post-match as well too. That's going to be on THFC TWD. Not to be confused with Spurs Diehards TTID. There's just a lot of abbreviations out there, but the show's pretty cool. So there's a lot going on, not only on stateside footy, but also on THFC TWD. So definitely check all that stuff. Make sure you like and subscribe because my channel's pretty cool, man.
Awesome. Cool. Get over there, guys. Check it out. Thanks very much for everybody involved. Adrian, you want to give let me just plug Eltel as well, who was on earlier. Jose, He does some great content and he has the Premier League predictions. So you can check him out at Eltel Cockerell. Adrian, one last time from you, buddy, on Spurs Diehards TTID. What you got going on?
Sunday. I'll be prepping the show for Sunday because Ian's a bit busy, but he will join me on it. That show goes out at 9 o'clock UK. Then I'll think of something for the Tuesday show, which goes out at 9 o'clock, and obviously this one on Friday goes out an hour later. To try and attract Canadian, American, and those in the Southern Hemisphere to come and join and be a part of our community. I mean, while I'm here, I'd like to thank everyone who's come on for all your comments, all the guests, etc. And if you like the content on Spurs Diehards TTID, spread the word about us. And, if you like the content, as I just said, then please give the videos a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel because, it just helps the algorithm, helps the channel grow. I'm sure it will grow, but with your help and support, it will grow quicker. So big ups. I want to big up to those that bother to watch us on playback. That's excellent. And we have got an outro, which I'm going to play in a minute. I don't know if Steve said didn't hear the intro. It's the same as the what's the name. So I'll leave it to.
It's the same as the outro. I mean, as I say, if you've heard it, you know. If you haven't heard it, you'll never forget it. Have a good one, guys.